Giulietta Orbitian was swept into a contract marriage with a powerful, cold, and calculating second male lead. Initially, it was just a deal for mutual benefit, and they both kept their distance and concealed their true feelings. Through clashes, protections, and misunderstandings, Giulietta gradually saw the gentleness beneath his icy exterior. As the contract neared its end, their hearts no longer obeyed any clauses. So, what will their journey ahead be like? Please stay tuned for the next episode of this sweet and dramatic romance novel. A novel whose name I can't remember. And I am in that story, not as the beautiful female lead who will fall in love with the male lead. Giulietta hurriedly made an X with her hands, denying it repeatedly. No, we are not even close. Before that, Giulietta accidentally pressed the rewind button, going back 10 seconds in the video. I am the supporting female character who once said something wrong to a girl close to the male lead and was scolded severely by him. Yes, the number one background character. The villainous supporting character of the novel, Giulietta Orbitian. I woke up in her body. Returning to reality, Giulietta pondered. I do not remember the plot very well, but to survive, I decided to live in seclusion. I hid in the mansion, avoiding both the female lead and that crazy male lead. Early the next morning, she muttered to herself. Legally unemployed, I like it. Immediately afterward, Giulietta was completely stunned. But, why, she stammered quickly, what are you saying? Yeezer paused for a beat, the corner of his mouth twitching slightly as if considering his words. What I mean is. After a long while, he suddenly made a proposition, the corner of his mouth curving into a crescent moon. Are you interested in a contract marriage? Hearing this, Giulietta's heart completely skipped a beat. She could not help but feel a little bewildered. Why would the second male lead suddenly say that to me? The scene shifts to an extremely luxurious and magnificent mansion. She cheerfully shrugged her shoulders, exclaiming as the gentle sunlight streamed through the tall windows, what a beautiful day. The nanny widened her eyes in surprise, entering the room and saying, oh my, miss, you are up so early today, you even dressed yourself. She stepped closer, inquiring, you have been sleeping a lot lately. Is there something important today? Giulietta excitedly replied without thinking, of course, there is, nanny. She said with a serious expression, as if mentioning an irreversible historical milestone, today is the wedding day of His Majesty the Emperor and the Empress. Giulietta repeated silently in her mind, the Emperor and the Empress, in other words, the male lead and the female lead will get married today, finally. Today is the day the novel comes to an end. A feeling of suffocation was about to burst from Giulietta's chest. She thought to herself, living far away from modern conveniences is bad enough, but staying cooped up in the house all this time has been too much to bear. Thinking of this, Giulietta excitedly spun around a few times. Finally, I can go wherever I want. Seeing this, the nanny could not help but smile. Look how happy the young lady is. She took the nanny's hand, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Nanny, let us go on a trip. The nanny hesitated slightly, the wrinkles around her eyes widening in surprise. Miss, you have been hiding in this mansion for so long. What wind suddenly blew you here? Hearing this, Giulietta asked back innocently, really, do I seem that strange, nanny? She shook her head slowly, her voice softening. Strange, not really. I was even afraid you would never leave this place. She hesitantly made a suggestion, well, then maybe the desert in the neighboring country. Just then, a voice interrupted the conversation, travel. Wislet Orbitian, the second son of the Orbitian family. Wislet stared at Giulietta, his eyebrows furrowing slightly, clearly displeased. You are talking about traveling at a time like this. He continued, his tone brooking no argument. Father said you should stop rejecting every engagement proposal. She repeated in confusion, reject what? Giulietta said slowly, each word clear. If you mean the engagement candidates, then not a single one is suitable for me, that is all. Wislet looked at her helplessly and skeptically. What exactly do you dislike about them? They were chosen very carefully. He went straight to the point with Giulietta, his gaze more serious than usual. What kind of partner do you want? She repeated, a faint smile playing on her lips, as if talking about an object rather than a person. What kind of partner? Immediately afterward, Giulietta rattled off a string of details, someone who won't utter the words eternal love upon first meeting, who will only fulfill the duties of a husband well. And who won't interfere in my life, that is all. Wislet's face froze for a moment, like a statue. He called her name, his voice deepening, Giulietta, you have become too cold. She chuckled, as if not bothering to deny it. It is just that you are the type who likes romance. Giulietta continued, her tone calm to the point of cruel. There are many political marriages between families, are not there? Her voice echoed evenly in the quiet space. Instead of wasting time on love, would not it be simpler if both sides just protected themselves and played their roles? After speaking, Julie paused. She could not help but doubt herself. Was that answer too vague? Wislet turned to look at her, his eyes clearly drooping. If that is really what you want, then I will tell father. He paused for a moment, as if choosing his words. But anyway. After a moment of silence, Wislet said slowly, Julieta, I hope you will marry someone you truly love. Only after he left did she dare to relax. In that moment, Wislet's voice still echoed in Julieta's ears, marry someone I love. She parted her lips to breathe out softly, marriage. Vague memories flashed in Julieta's mind. Maybe I should spread the rumor that I will choose my own fiancé, that is what I said, but... Returning to reality, she stared at Yeezer, who knew someone would actually come knocking. Julieta's body almost froze, she could not help but feel a little bewildered, and... Julieta unconsciously stared at him again. I did not expect the person to come to be this guy. Just as she was still in a daze, Yeezer suddenly spoke, I heard the rumors. Hearing this, Julieta almost fainted, her heart pounding rapidly, a sweet voice that captivates the person in front of you. Before getting to the main topic, he leisurely enjoyed a cup of tea, his voice continuing, someone who won't utter the word destiny, and who won't interfere in her life more than necessary. But who will play the role of an ideal husband well? On this side, she was still carefully observing him, kind and gentle. With exquisite features, Yeezer looked directly at Julieta with a serious gaze. You said that is the type of person you want, right? Julieta's eyes quickly swept across his face. Golden hair, and serious blue eyes full of sincerity. In other words, without hesitation, Yeezer bluntly made a proposal. Could I be that person, the second male lead with a puppy-like appearance? Back to Julieta, she was still in shock. Yeezer him, but why is he standing in front of me like this? In that moment, the room fell into a state of silence. Upon hearing the question, Julieta hurriedly leaned forward. She asked suspiciously, wait, you mean you want to marry me? Yeezer's cold voice rang out again, about that. He tilted his head slightly, his voice still strangely calm. Would a contract marriage be acceptable? She paused slightly, her eyebrows furrowing slightly. Huh? Julieta hesitated to ask again, her voice slightly broken. Contract marriage, you mean, you do not intend to extend it forever? Yeezer did not think for a moment. He replied concisely, yes, that is right. He continued, his eyes darkening for a moment, as if admitting a rare weakness of his own. I do not have the courage to love anyone. Julieta's eyes quickly shifted and stopped at Yeezer's constantly trembling arm. She sighed inwardly, oh my. Julieta stared at Yeezer with a pitying gaze, right, I understand, your tragic love. She hurriedly turned away, avoiding his gaze, her inner self almost screaming, how can I not do it, when I invested in his stock and it turned into waste paper? Yeezer continued to utter words, a sound as light as nothing, but with weight. Anyway, I am probably the ideal husband you want. Speaking of this, he smiled brightly. Those things, I promise. Meanwhile, Julieta fell into contemplation. She suddenly thought, Yeezer must also be under pressure to marry from his family. Her eyes unconsciously stopped on his handsome face again. Doubt arose in her heart, but with his personality, he would never bring back someone he does not care about. He would only worry about them. Julieta looked shyly at Yeezer. How could a dupe be so kind? Thoughts arose in her mind. I have nothing to lose anyway, a kind husband, perfect for me. After a moment of silence, Julieta nodded in agreement. Okay. Without hesitation, she spoke, her voice sounding powerful. Okay, let us do it, a contract marriage. Julieta continued, her voice becoming more realistic. My family has been urging me to get married a lot too. This is good, 2 years then, and of course, the fault for the divorce lies with you, Duke. Speaking of this, she suddenly stopped and hesitated. You will agree to divide the property fairly, right? The corner of Yeezer's mouth curved up. Yes. He replied without hesitation, placing his hand on his chest. For 2 years, I will be your ideal husband. Julieta's eyes lit up in that moment. Really, what could possibly go wrong? Done, she reached out and took Yeezer's hand. Then I will count on you for the next 2 years. Julieta reassured herself, I will be fine. Not stopping there, she continued to calm her heart, everything will be fine, right, there are still some uncertainties, but, anyway. The contract marriage with the second male lead begins. A few days later, Julieta asked worriedly, her voice carrying a hint of childish anxiety. "Nanny, should I eat less to fit into my wedding dress?" The nanny immediately refused, her eyes full of pity looking at her. "Miss, you are already too thin. You can eat more." Julieta blinked, somewhat surprised. Really, wild thoughts flashed in her mind. I heard that other young girls are not allowed to eat snacks, or are even starved. Julieta could not help but sigh. My nanny is too kind compared to her own benefit. Thinking of this, she turned to look at the vanity. But Julieta's eyes were fixed on a compact object. I did not think things would happen so quickly. She pondered, her heart beating slightly faster. I spent too much time worrying about how to tell father. After a long while, Julieta hesitantly spoke, trying to keep her voice normal. "Father." She turned in one direction. "About this marriage, the truth is." Orbishan suddenly interrupted, "I know, Julieta." He lowered his voice, his expression slightly helpless. "I heard you met Duke Perheim. I am sorry, I did not realize." She raised her head sharply, completely unable to react. "Pardon." Orbishan bowed his head apologetically. "You should have told me sooner." "Because I did not know that, I kept introducing you to those useless men." Julieta nodded instinctively. "Yes, that is right." She was stunned for a moment. "Wait, when did he tell father?" Back to the scene, Julieta repeated his words to herself. "Because they are taking care of the wedding preparations, you really do not have to do anything." The nanny could not help but laugh. "The Duke must like you very much, miss." She turned around and replied softly, "Yes, I think so." At this moment, the door of the room slowly opened. Wislet walked straight inside. As soon as he appeared, he spoke loudly. "Hey, what was that just now?" Wislet almost shouted in a moment of madness. "You are marrying Duke Perheim, just like that." Julieta stared blankly at him. "Brother Wislet." Valentino continued in a sad tone. "That is right, Julieta, such a sudden marriage, and above all," he continued, his voice clearly deepening, "your brother feels abandoned." Hearing this, she still seemed normal, and did not forget to ask. "Brother Valentino too, brother, are not you busy working at the palace?" Wislet angrily spoke up. "Hey, Julieta, do not you see me here?" Valentino put on a sad face. As soon as he heard the news that his sister was getting married, he rushed back. Father even contacted him personally. "That is right." Wislet nodded beside him repeatedly. "Brother, say something to her." He suddenly grabbed her hand tightly. "All he ever heard was that none of the people pursuing you were good." "So, since when did you and Duke Perheim become lovers?" Julieta forced a smile. She tried to explain, "I am sorry, we decided to keep it a secret until the marriage was confirmed." Speaking of this, Julieta laughed again. "I should have told you first, I am sorry." Valentino gave a faint laugh. "It is okay, it is still good news." He smiled slightly, but his eyes still shone with a sadness that was hard to hide. "Our sister is getting married, it is time, but I still feel a little sad." In contrast to the two, Wislet's expression grew darker and darker. He stepped closer, his voice deepening. "Julieta, let us talk privately for a moment." Wislet's voice deepened when he called her name, no longer with his usual teasing expression. "Hey, Julieta." Julieta hesitated to reply, "Yes." He suddenly turned around, then ordered, "Be honest with me." Wislet looked directly into Julieta's eyes, his gaze so serious that she could not avoid it. You do not really love Duke Perheim, do you?" Hearing this, Julieta smiled unconsciously. She thought to herself, her heart tightening slightly. "I knew this would happen." Wislet continued, his voice not reproachful, but full of suppressed worry. "What exactly are you thinking?" He said slowly, as if repeating an obvious fact. "Duke Perheim has someone he loves. Everyone knows who he has had feelings for until recently." Speaking of this, Wislet looked skeptical. "And now, suddenly, he is about to marry you." Julieta spoke, trying to keep her voice calm. "Anyway, it is just a political marriage. It does not matter who he loves." As soon as the words fell, his body almost froze. He hesitated, as if trying to express something difficult to say. I just want you to be happy, Julieta." She smiled wryly, a warm feeling spreading in her chest. "I know, Wislet is not scolding me right now." Julieta looked towards Wislet. "He just wants me to live in a marriage where I am truly loved. I am not someone who needs love." She slowly stepped closer to him. "I was going to tell you that love is not my top priority in life." Hearing this, Wislet frowned slightly. But what if you regret it later? What if you fall in love with the Duke? Julieta raised her head, giving a light but sincere smile. Honestly, brother, no matter how you look, you are a very emotional person. She said confidently, her voice more determined than she thought. I will definitely be happy. After speaking, Julieta did not forget to remind. So do not worry about me. On this side, the corners of Wislet's mouth unconsciously curved up. He patted her head gently. You always make me worry. Wislet smiled gently, a rare sight. He repeated, Julieta, you have to keep that promise, that you will be happy. Julieta smoothed her messy hair. She replied petulantly, Nanny had a hard time combing my hair too. In that moment, she smiled faintly. I am sorry, brother, but I really think I will be happy like this, even without love. The host's voice rang out, pulling Julieta back to a reality that could not be delayed. Please, let the bride enter. Inside the wedding, the nobles turned to look at her one by one. At the same time, Yeazer also unconsciously turned, his eyes fixed on Julieta's figure. At this moment, she appeared with a pristine white dress and a beautiful bouquet of white flowers. Julieta raised her head and looked towards Yeazer, her eyes lighting up slightly. On the opposite side, his cheeks unconsciously flushed red. Immediately afterward, she slowly reached out towards Yeazer. Julieta moved step by step to his side, she smiled happily. Seeing this, Yeazer nodded slightly and smiled contentedly. Julieta turned to think as she saw Yeazer standing there, why is he so handsome? That face could be harmful to a person's health. Just then, she unconsciously turned to look at the guests. Julieta glanced at two familiar men, brother and father. She smiled inwardly, father kept urging me to get married, and now that it has really happened, he seems a little emotional. Julieta suddenly caught Wislet's teary eyes, she said in her heart, Wislet, I understand. She sighed in her heart, looking at everything like this feels really real, I am really getting married. On this side, Yeazer still could not take his eyes off Julieta. He worriedly approached and asked, is everything alright? Julieta quickly replied, yes, I am fine, Duke Perheim. The host continued to speak, the groom and the bride. Yeazer smiled faintly, that title is not necessary. He sternly ordered, rely on each other, just call me Yeazer, miss. Julieta was slightly dazed and nodded unconsciously, yes. She tried to remain calm, but only one thought echoed in her mind, oh no, he is too handsome up close, I can't focus on the host. Seeing Julieta turn away, avoiding his gaze, the smile on his lips also faded. Yeazer suddenly spoke, I am really sorry, miss. She startled, about what? He said quickly, for accepting such an unsuitable proposal. Yeazer continued to add, his eyes showing sadness. I imagined you wanted a marriage built on love, I was worried that I might have hindered your future. Hearing this, Julieta turned around, she thought to herself, honestly, he is annoying. A man who is too kind, to the point of being annoying, if I really liked Yeazer, it might be a little painful. Julieta suddenly grabbed his hand tightly. Then, Yeazer. He turned around blankly. Yes, the host spoke softly. Groom and bride, please seal the oath with a kiss. She slowly approached, lips to lips with Yeazer, even if it is just a symbolic act, swear love and end the ceremony with a kiss. The next day, the maid bowed slightly as she adjusted Julieta's hair, her tone showing sincerity. Miss, you look so beautiful. She could not help but sigh. Really, the Duke will be very happy. Someone quickly replied, of course, no doubt. Another person said softly, everything is ready, miss. Julieta slowly stood up, she turned to look at each face, they really care about how I dress. Julieta took a deep breath, squeezing her hand slightly to calm herself. It is time, I need to stay focused. She kept telling herself, her steps becoming heavier. Yes, because tonight is my first night with Yeazer. That night the newly married couples had to share. Yeazer will look directly into her eyes. Julieta, you are beautiful. She looked up at him, slightly hesitant but still honest. Yeazer, you are so handsome, the most. Julieta quickly reminded herself, of course, that is something that will never happen between us, because we are not a real couple. Yeazer's voice suddenly deepened as the bedroom door closed, Miss Orbitian. Hearing this, Julieta could not help but feel a little bewildered. So why? He looked directly into her eyes coldly. Your actions now, should I consider them a threat? She hurriedly shook her head, her voice mixed with confusion and panic. That is not it. Julieta asked inwardly, why did things turn out this way? Because clearly, Julieta hesitantly spoke, Duke, I am here, the moment I entered the bedroom. Yeezer looked and only replied concisely, "You have arrived, it is me here." A cockroach, by Yeezer's feet, there was something black as ink and insect-like crawling when he drank water. Then suddenly Julieta pointed the sword directly at him. "Duke, please do not move." Without thinking, I will take the sword hanging nearby to deal with it. Yeezer widened his eyes, his voice carrying surprise mixed with vigilance. "Miss, what are you doing?" She shook her head repeatedly. "It is not that I wanted this situation to turn out like this, no, it is a misunderstanding." Julieta pointed to herself, her voice full of urgency. "Look at me, I have no muscles, too soft and weak. The Duke is as perfect as a solid wall of muscles. How could I threaten you?" Before the explanation, he sighed helplessly. "Then why did you take the sword off the wall?" She quickly pointed to the floor. "Because there is a big bug right next to you." Hearing this, Yeezer squinted his eyes and looked in the direction Julieta's hand was pointing. A bug. Then he slowly leaned down before her flustered eyes. Yeezer turned around, then looked at Julieta with a confused expression. "You mean this thing?" She was almost petrified, the corners of her mouth moved without making a sound, that is. After a moment of hesitation, Julieta almost shouted, "A yarn ball." She muttered, her mind completely messed up. "Why is that here?" Julieta frantically explained, trying to cling to the memory from just now. "No, I am sure I saw a bug, but that is strange. What is going on?" Her voice trembled with urgency. It was not a tiny little ball of yarn like that. Julieta realized it immediately. "He is laughing." Yeezer said with a smile, "I can understand why you were so startled, but it is okay, that was not a bug, so do not worry." He looked worried. "But, even a decorative sword is heavy. What if you dropped it and got hurt?" She lowered her head shyly. "I will be more careful next time." Julieta thought to herself. "I am sorry, but it is not heavy at all." Yeezer immediately shook his head. "No, I was the one who misunderstood. Please forgive me, miss." Julieta quickly replied, "No, it is all right." She did not forget to make a suggestion. "And please, from now on, you can call me Julieta." He gently replied, "I understand, Julieta." After speaking, Yeezer suddenly became silent. Seeing this, Julieta asked worriedly, "But, Yeezer, why did you suddenly turn away? You were looking at me just now, it was fine." Yeezer slowly turned his head back, his voice noticeably lower. "It is just that, once I relaxed, I realized your clothes are too thin." Yeezer continued, completely sincerely, "I can't keep looking." Julieta forced a smile. Even in the novel, Yeezer was always wholeheartedly devoted to the female lead, so he is almost immune to other women. She quickly turned around. "I understand, I will go find something to cover up." "What should I wear?" Yeezer suddenly called out her name. "Wait, Julieta." He continued hesitantly, "You won't find a suitable robe here, so." Immediately afterward, Yeezer stood up abruptly. "I will bring something more suitable for you." Julieta's body suddenly lost balance. Her whole body fell backward, her eyes widening. "I am falling." Julieta closed her eyes tightly, completely relaxing. After a long while, she blankly opened her eyes. "Why does not it hurt?" Julieta slowly glanced around the room. She turned to look at the warmth coming from the side. "I definitely fell, the sound was so loud." Hitting Julieta's eyes directly was Yeezer's worried gaze. He stared at her, his eyes showing worry. "Are you all right?" Julieta tried to sit up, her voice suddenly dry. "Yes, I think so." Just as Julieta managed to regain her senses, a sudden surge of electricity shot through her head. Julieta slowly moved each fingertip, a sudden warmth traveling straight through this feeling. Julieta realized her heart was beating erratically for no apparent reason, because the distance between her and Yeezer was very close at this moment. He tilted his head to look at her. "Julieta," Julieta almost screamed in her heart, "that is his bare chest." Julieta unconsciously shifted her gaze, observing every line on Yeezer's body. His robe must have loosened and come off. Her heart beat even faster. "I have never noticed before." Julieta was completely absent-minded. Thoughts flashed through her head, why, but can the whole atmosphere change just because a robe came undone? She tried to close her eyes tightly, but her inner self still crazily affirmed, "His face is like a puppy, but his body is so strong, peak genetic blessing." His voice rang out, pulling her out of a stream of thought that was sliding in a very dangerous direction. Julieta reacted blankly, "Yes." Her voice suddenly trembled. "I am fine." At this moment, right the next second, fresh blood kept dripping onto the ground. Yeezer's voice lowered, his worry even clearer. "Julieta, you are bleeding." He continued to ask, "Are you really alright?" Her eyes still could not leave Yeezer's rounded chest. The distance between the two suddenly became so close that Julieta could feel the warmth from his body. She froze. "His chest is talking to me." Meanwhile, Yeezer kept asking, his tone full of worry. "Did you fall hard? Does it hurt?" Julieta closed her eyes tightly. She hesitantly suggested, "Yeezer, can you put your clothes back on properly?" Hearing this, Yeezer immediately covered his body with the robe. He looked at her intently. "Julieta, has your nose stopped bleeding?" She quickly replied, "Yes." Julieta frantically wiped the bloodstains on her nose, her inner self pondering, "The problem is, this handsome man still looks dangerous whether he is wearing clothes or not." It took half a second for Yeezer to realize the problem. He lowered his head shyly. "Forgive me, I will be more careful from now on," she said so quietly that it could not be heard. "It is not you, it is me. I am so embarrassed I want to die." In that moment, the two sat motionless, neither daring to speak first. Julieta quickly stood up. "Can I open the window?" Yeezer nodded slightly, "Sure." She hurried closer to the window, then thought to herself, "He must have realized that I was avoiding him just now because I was embarrassed, sorry." Immediately afterward, a gentle breeze blew straight into Julieta's face. The night sky was strangely cool. She smiled. "Anyway, the night air is really pleasant." At this moment, Yeezer approached. "The night sky is clear tonight too." He carefully placed his hand near Julieta's, "and the air is just cool enough." Seeing this, she stared blankly at Yeezer's hand. It was just a very light touch. Julieta looked up at him. His hand. Yeezer called her name again, "Julieta." Julieta quickly reacted, "Yes, Yeezer." She could not help but feel a little bewildered. Was I just overreacting just because our hands touched? He turned to look at Julieta with sincere eyes. "On the day of the wedding," Yeezer frankly admitted, "I wanted to thank you." Julieta was silent for a moment. She asked in confusion, "On the wedding day?" After a moment of thought, Julieta asked curiously, "Did I do something?" He affirmed firmly, "Yes." Yeezer did not forget to gesture. "You held my hand when I was trembling." Julieta laughed after hearing this. "That thing, it is nothing," she casually said, "even though it is just a contract, you are still my husband, so of course I had to do it." Hearing this, he could not help but chuckle. "I understand." Seeing this, Julieta thought to herself, "I must have overreacted a little." Yeezer suddenly asked a question. "And you do not want to know why I was trembling like that?" Without hesitation, she replied quickly, "I know you have your own reasons. I do not like to interfere in things that people do not want to talk about." The smile on his lips immediately faded. Yeezer turned away, avoiding her gaze. He muttered in his throat, "You are so kind." Julieta stared at him blankly. Kind, or rather. I already know almost all of his circumstances from the original plot. The reason why he gave me a marriage contract. The scene of Julieta and Yeezer kissing was suddenly recreated. And the reason why throughout the oath reading process, he trembled when they both kissed. In that moment, thoughts flashed in Julieta's head. She could not help but feel a little worried. Anyway, if I act like I know everything, he will hate me. If I were him, I would be scared too. Yeezer said, his voice softening. "Julieta, I am really looking forward to accompanying you in the next 2 years." Julieta nodded slightly, "Me too." Then she widened her eyes and looked at him innocently, "But because tonight is our wedding night, we can't leave the room until tomorrow morning, right?" Yeezer was silent for a moment and then replied. "Probably so." Julieta said as quietly as possible, "Then what do we do all night? Just lying in the same bed is already embarrassing." She looked at the wine bottle in surprise. "What is that?" Yeezer quickly replied, "The maids must have prepared it. They said nothing relieves stress as effectively as wine." Julieta revealed an excited expression after hearing this. "Then why do not we drink and talk together?" He paused slightly, "Talk." She leaned slightly towards Yeezer, the next words carrying a sincerity that was hard to hide. "Even though it is just a contract, we will be living together for the next 2 years. It would be good to understand each other a little more. Anyway, we have to act like a happy couple in front of the public." Julieta smiled, a smile that was not completely confident. "It would be a little strange if we did not know anything about each other, right?" Yeezer looked at the wine bottle in front of him, and then spoke slowly, "But, this wine is quite strong." She replied quickly, as if afraid he would refuse. "It is okay, I know my own alcohol tolerance." Yeezer glanced at Julieta from head to toe and then laughed. "You do not look like you know at all." Seeing her determined look, he had no choice but to compromise. Anyway, following your suggestion is fine too. After a few sips of wine, the atmosphere gradually softened. Julieta asked curiously, really? She continued curiously, I heard you are very strict with your soldiers. Yeager replied quickly, his back still straight as if he were in the barracks. I am fair in both public and private matters. Julieta narrowed her eyes at him, half-jokingly, if I were one of your soldiers, you would not be gentle with me, would you? Yeager thought for a moment, and then said very seriously, the corner of his mouth curving up. I would probably make you run 100 laps around the training area. And if you made a mistake, I would make you remember it for life with strict hand-to-hand combat. Hearing this, she chuckled, I thought you would only be gentle and gallant, but you are not like I thought. Julieta suddenly fell silent, the smile disappearing completely from her face. She was silent for a moment and then replied, as for me, I do not have any friends. Julieta continued, her eyes looking down at the table, her fingers unconsciously swirling around the base of the glass. That is why I am really happy to be able to sit and talk comfortably like this. Yeager stared blankly, following her every movement. Julieta muttered, her voice a little vague, I must be drunk, what silly things am I saying? He suddenly asked, his voice lowered, carrying sincere concern. Did something happen to you? Julieta shook her head slightly. I can't tell you about that. She looked up, looking straight at him. But, Yeager, because we are here. Then Julieta suddenly made a proposal. Why do not we become friends? Yeager frowned slightly, stood up a little and then sat down again, his voice gentle but firm. You are drunk, you should go to sleep. She gently rubbed her flushed cheeks and smiled. I am probably a little tipsy. But Julieta's eyes still tried to cling to him. But as for wanting to be friends, I am serious. She said slowly, each word as if falling down. I am very lonely. Julieta painfully admitted. I can't talk to anyone like this. My nanny, and even Wislet, they are all good, but with them, I am still always just Julieta. Nanny and Wislet are always good to me, but they only show that affection because I am Julieta. When the real Julieta is no longer in this world. Even I do not know the details. In the original story, everything was resolved, that is why they appear there. But here, after the accident, Julieta turned out like this. Nanny and Wislet still warmly take care of me, even though I am just someone who occupies her body. A thought suddenly flashed in her head. But if they found out that I was not Julieta, their feelings probably would not be able to stay the same. Thinking of this, Julieta hurriedly closed her eyes and breathed out. Right, I really do not need anything like love. More than that, what I need is simply someone to share my heart with. The look that Yeager gave me at that time. It looked full of sadness. Could it be that he was seeing a reflection of himself in me? His precious friend, his first love, becoming the queen of the empire, someone he no longer dared to keep in his heart, his feelings had become something that would never appear again. That moment a teardrop fell straight down as if about to end everything. After a long while, Yeager suddenly spoke. Of course. He looked straight into her eyes with a firm gaze. I will be your friend. Julieta laughed, the smile coming faster than she thought, her shoulders slightly relaxing as if she had just unloaded an invisible burden. Really, that makes me very happy. In that moment, she breathed a sigh of relief, I have a friend. Yeager asked worriedly, are you all right? Julieta quickly continued when she saw worry in his eyes. I am completely fine, do not worry about me. She screamed in her heart, oh no, I am the only one who is a little drunk. Julieta tilted her head, observing Yeager more closely, as if she had just discovered something interesting. Yeager's alcohol tolerance is much better than I thought. She slowly called his name, Yeager. Yeager also replied, Julieta. Julieta suddenly said something difficult to understand. Just so you know, when I am drunk, I do not lose consciousness or anything. She said shyly, so do not take back your promise of friendship, understand? Yeager paused slightly, and then smiled slightly, a smile so light that it almost dissolved in the air. I take responsibility for everything I say. He did not forget to tease. Do you really see me as someone who is untrustworthy? Julieta immediately denied, no, of course not, I trust you, where else can there be someone as respectable as you? Because in the novel, Yeager was. Thoughts flashed in her head, the perfect model of a sincere, gentle, and kind second male lead. Knowing that, there is no way I could doubt him. Yeager suddenly asked curiously, what is it about me that makes you trust me so much? Julieta paused slightly. What? He bluntly stated his point of view. We have not even known each other for long. Yeezer said slowly, his voice deepening. It can be dangerous to easily trust someone. She laughed softly in her heart. The truth is, I have read about you in a novel. Julieta took a breath, and then decided to choose the safest path. It is just because of the rumors I have heard. He was slightly confused. Rumors. She continued to add, yes, maybe you would not know because you do not care about things like that, but you have a pretty good reputation. Hearing this, Yeezer was silent. He moved his fingertips unconsciously. That thing. Yeezer covered his mouth and chuckled. I did not know. Julieta smiled, her eyes a little mischievous. Of course, you only care about swords and the female lead, everything else, you ignore. After speaking, she could not help but laugh heartily. At the same time, Yeezer unconsciously stared at Julieta. The atmosphere suddenly quieted down. He suddenly admitted, I have loved someone for a very long time. Yeezer continued, his tone sad to the point of heartbreaking. But that person is now the wife of another man. She paused. Yeezer, Julieta asked quickly, is that why you said you can't love anyone anymore? He replied immediately, without avoiding. Yes, that is right. Julieta silently observed Yeezer. His voice, it sounds really painful. She only turned away, avoiding his gaze. Of course, he spent too much time only loving the female lead. Like every male supporting character in the story, loving the female lead fiercely, blindly. Julieta said slowly, each word as if placed down very carefully. You look very sad, that must have been very difficult for you, right? Yeezer immediately shook his head. I am fine, actually, I even think it is for the best. He continued, his voice even. In the end, they got married. Yeezer's voice lowered. Now everyone can be happy. The female lead, Bertisha, the male lead Camilio and Yeezer were childhood friends. Yeezer was the closest person to Bertisha from the beginning. But when she met the crown prince, who would later become the male lead, she fell in love with him. And Yeezer, even though it was very painful, still could not do anything but stand by and watch. Deep inside, he knew there was no place for him beside her. Julieta stared blankly at Yeezer. And yet, what? Her body trembled. Everyone is happy, what nonsense is this? Thinking of this, Julieta cursed inwardly. How ridiculous. Yeezer casually said, anyway, from now on. She suddenly interrupted. What do you mean by fine? Immediately afterward, Julieta rushed over and grabbed him. She angrily questioned, what exactly is fine? Immediately afterward, Julieta shouted a word that shook the space. When you keep everything to yourself. For the happiness of his friends, he silently took a step back, the kind Yeezer. Julieta angrily asked the question, but what about his heart? Would they ever understand? There was no answer, only a silence that stretched out like an invisible void, where everyone turned away for their own happiness. In the end, the answer to the silence was only 3 words, not at all. After the end of the story, they continued to live happily together, like a pair of lovebirds. And so Yeezer had to endure alone. Painful, miserable, even so, he still prayed for them to be happy. Thinking of this, Julieta painfully caressed Yeezer's face. So stupid. Then she suddenly pinched Yeezer's cheek. He cried out in pain. You are drunk, Julieta. Yeezer replied immediately, looking up at Julieta, his eyes not as blurred as she thought. I am fine. Hearing this, Julieta immediately interrupted. She resolutely made a suggestion. Don't keep saying that you are fine. Julieta almost shouted, her voice gradually rising with emotion. If you are sad, just admit that you are sad. The person you love has become someone else's wife, how can you be fine? She continued to add, almost cursing because of the bitterness. If it were me, I would not eat anything for a week. Not stopping there, Julieta continued to illustrate with words. I would cry out, scream like a scoundrel loud enough to shake the whole house. Yeezer asked, his eyes widening a little, as if he did not expect it. Are you angry for me? Julieta replied, without hesitating. Of course. Before Yeezer's stunned appearance, she declared loudly, whether it is a contract or not, I am still your wife. Yeezer replied softly, his voice carrying sincere gratitude. Yes, miss, thank you. He took a deep breath, his shoulders finally lowering. You are right, the truth is, I am not fine at all. Yeezer continued, his voice trembling very slightly. To be honest, it hurts a lot. Julieta looked at him, her heart twinging slightly, because he had loved her for so long, this pitiful second male lead. Immediately afterward, she said in a serious tone, right now, I can comfort Yeezer because I do not have a single romantic feeling for him, but later, when you love someone else. Do not talk about your past love with that face. Julieta emphasized each word sternly. She will feel like her heart is being torn apart. Yeezer said, his eyes becoming more serious. But Julieta, if you listen to me as a friend, that will never happen. Hearing this, she was silent and did not reply. Julieta asked in confusion, her voice already slow from the alcohol. What do you mean? Then she casually said, once we divorce, we will really just be strangers. Julieta continued, ignoring his eyes that did not leave her. Even our friendship is just part of the contract. After a moment of silence, Yeezer hesitantly repeated. Contract friendship. She clapped her hands excitedly. Yes. Julieta laughed happily, but the laughter sounded strangely thin. After the divorce, I will travel everywhere and make new friends. Before her overly excited appearance, Yeezer was completely stunned. He said with a dry voice, that was heavy like an iceberg, so I am being abandoned. Julieta shrugged slightly and then continued in a light tone. Come on, what is the point of hanging out with an ex-husband, it will only spread bad rumors. She sighed inwardly. My head is so dizzy. Julieta slumped down on the chair. Oh no, I suddenly feel so sleepy, should I have another drink before going to sleep? On this side Yeezer muttered to himself. An ex-husband will definitely be like that, right? Julieta smiled. That is right, just drink this last time. Then she nodded quickly. Yes, of course. Immediately afterward, Julieta reached out and touched the glass of wine. Then suddenly Yeezer snatched the glass of wine from her hand. Seeing this, Julieta turned to look at him with a puzzled expression. She blankly asked again. So, enough, Yeezer only replied concisely. Don't drink any more wine. He looked straight into Julieta's eyes and then drew a conclusion. You are too drunk already. Hearing this, she looked resentful. Not that much. Julieta's vision blurred. She still kept grumbling. I was going to drink one more glass. The scene suddenly shifted to the next morning. At the same time, Julieta vaguely woke up after a burning hangover. She frowned tightly, groaning softly, my head hurts so much, I can't open my eyes. I only drank a few glasses last night, how could this hangover be so bad? No way, I did not even drink that much. In that moment, Julieta vaguely came to life. Suddenly there is such a fragrant smell. She groped around on the bed. Where is it coming from? Then Julieta unconsciously turned over, her face suddenly slamming straight into someone's chest. Before the warmth mixed with the unfamiliar fragrance, she tried to lean closer. This. Julieta hastily groped up to the round chest area, she excitedly felt. Cool and refreshing, the feeling is really great. Then Julieta frowned. She continued to complain, I must be very annoying, a bride who passed out on her wedding night, and my last memory of last night has disappeared. Later, Julieta fell into a state of utter confusion. But, what is this cool feeling, I can't even open my eyes, did Yeezer bring me ice? She turned around again, and then continued to inhale. Or maybe there is a hangover cure in this world. At this moment, the familiar voice rang out. Stop it. Hearing this, Julieta's senses almost jolted awake. She groggily woke up and lurched upwards. That voice sounded like Yeezer's. What met Julieta's eyes was a full, round chest. Yeezer gave a faint smile, milady. He shyly used his hand to cover himself, then bashfully added, please, stop touching me. On her side, Julieta's jaw dropped in astonishment. Immediately after, her mouth opened so wide her jawbone was visible. Julieta's piercing scream echoed from inside the mansion. After a long while, silence returned. Inside, Yeezer hurriedly used a blanket to cover himself, while Julieta lowered her voice, I am really sorry. She gave an awkward laugh, head bowed. Inside, she thought in a panic, I have lost my mind. Even half asleep, how could I touch someone's body like that, if he thinks I am a pervert now? I won't be able to defend myself. Yeezer said calmly, his voice regaining its usual composure, if you go outside, the servants will be there. He turned his back, as if trying to maintain a safe distance, tell them to bring you some soup regularly. It will be good for your digestion. Yeezer added, his voice even, as if discussing business, you drank so much last night, you must not be feeling well. Julieta responded softly, yes, then hesitantly asked, what about you? Yeezer coldly said, throwing a cloak over his shoulders, I will be going out for a bit. She stood still, her heart sinking. I took the liberty of touching him without permission. He must be really uncomfortable. The atmosphere was so nice last night, and now. Julieta mustered all her courage, her voice trembling slightly. I am sorry. Please do not be angry. Yeezer answered immediately, but still did not turn to look at her. I am not angry. Julieta hesitated, but you said we were friends yesterday, and now you won't even look at me. She said quickly, as if afraid he would leave. You are angry, it is because of me, is not it? Julieta's voice trembled. That is why you are curled up in the blanket and turned your back. Yeezer sighed. That is really not it. After a moment's hesitation, he frankly admitted, I apologize for not explaining sooner. It is just my sleeping habit. I was going to leave when you were asleep. Julieta stared blankly at him. Sleeping habit, what kind? Then Yeezer quietly glanced at her, his eyes showing embarrassment. He paused, clearly finding it difficult to speak. Well, On her side, Julieta was still blankly following every expression on Yeezer's face. Meanwhile, Yeezer was still struggling to utter each word. When I sleep. One of his ears was already burning red. Then Yeezer continued, his voice noticeably quieter, I usually sleep naked. Julieta's jaw dropped. It felt like she would just been struck by lightning. What? After regaining her composure, she shouted out in confusion, yes. The scene shifted to the grounds outside the mansion. At the same time, Julieta wore a dazed expression. She thought to herself in a panic, forget the hangover, Yeezer alone is enough to drive me crazy. Questions piled up in Julieta's head. A sleeping habit like that. Should we sleep in separate rooms? I have never seen a man's naked body before. Thinking this, Julieta muttered unconsciously, that is really shocking. But then another thought intruded. Yeezer's voice suddenly echoed in her ears, when I sleep, I am usually naked. Thinking of this, her head almost burst into flames. Julieta was extremely bewildered. That means it was like that before too, he was also naked. If possible, I still want to avoid separate rooms. If Wislet or the nanny heard, they would just worry more. Thinking of this, she stopped short. Anyway. About what happened this morning, I feel like I should talk clearly so I can feel comfortable. Then Julieta looked sad. She could not help but feel a little distressed. But he keeps avoiding me. Even eating, I am only eating alone. If we happen to meet in the hallway, he disappears. I understand he is embarrassed, but... Julieta clenched her fist with a determined look. This can't continue. She stared at the mansion and made a decision, it is time to resolve this once and for all. In another development, Yeezer took heavy steps. His face had become gaunt, and he sighed incessantly. Yeezer said to himself, in the end, I am not even returning to the bedroom tonight. To do something like that on our wedding night. I have no face to face my wife. Thinking this, he quickly made a decision. I will stay in the study tonight then. And tomorrow, I will think about what the door creaked open. He looked up. Julieta's voice suddenly reached him. You are here. As soon as he saw her, Yeezer almost fainted. His eyes widened in shock. Inside the room, Julieta calmly looked at him and reproached, You are late, Yeezer. Yeezer stopped at the threshold. He stared blankly at her. Milady, how did you? Julieta went straight to the main topic without hesitation. I want to talk to you. She turned to look directly into Yeezer's eyes. We both have something we want to say, do not we? Meanwhile, he unconsciously avoided Julieta's gaze. Yeezer's lips were pressed so tightly together that his body trembled. Seeing this, she made a suggestion. Then let me speak first. I apologize for touching you without permission. He suddenly interrupted, forgive me. I can't face you. Hearing this, Julieta stopped short. Her eyes flashed with confusion. She paused and continued, face. Me, why? A terrifying thought flashed through her mind. Don't tell me he thinks I am a pervert and has lost interest in me. Yeezer hesitated, his hand clenched slightly. It is just. He wore an embarrassed expression. His voice was barely audible. I feel ashamed for showing something so disrespectful in front of you. Yeezer looked up for a moment. There was no reproach in his tone, only worry. You want an ideal husband, right? He continued to scold himself, with such a terrible habit, I do not think you will like me. Yeezer slowly relaxed. I worry if you are disappointed in me. She stood still, her mind blank for a few seconds. This person. He continued, and so, I have been avoiding you unconsciously. Immediately after, Yeezer lowered his head. I am really sorry. Julieta stared blankly at him. Am I imagining things, or does he even have ears and a tail now? I came to blame him for avoiding me without saying a word. But seeing this, I can't be angry anymore. I give up. You win. After a moment's silence, she frankly admitted, of course I am not disappointed. Though a bit confused, yes, but... She cleared her throat softly and secretly looked at him. I mean, I also touched your chest without permission. Anyway, I am okay, so do not think about it. Relief flashed in Yeezer's voice. Really, you do not see it as a problem. If you want, we can sleep separately. Julieta immediately shook her head. Come on, separate rooms, no way. She said as if explaining a lesson, if we do that on our honeymoon, not only the Duke's family, but also my family will worry. After speaking, she sighed dejectedly. Doesn't he remember we said we were marrying for love, to make both families believe it? Yeezer hesitated, clearly considering each word. Then he suddenly looked directly into her eyes. Would you agree if I slept naked at night? Yeezer seriously emphasized each word. Milady, do you mind if I take off my clothes at night? Hearing this, she sighed helplessly. I can't help it. I understand. Seeing this, he smiled with satisfaction. Then I will also understand if you accidentally touch me while sleeping. Julieta blushed and shouted, wait, why are you suddenly talking about this? I do not have a habit of touching other people when I sleep. Okay, Yeezer just replied casually, oh. She declared emphatically, yes, that is right, so do not worry. Before Julieta's excessive reaction, he chuckled. I understand, Julieta. Seeing this, she unconsciously stared at Yeezer. Julieta could not help but marvel. He is still kind even to a woman he does not have feelings for. He is really nice. Right at this moment, Yeezer suddenly spoke. Milady, look. He unexpectedly reached out towards Julieta. She stared blankly at each movement. What? Julieta's eyes widened in surprise. Then Yeezer gently touched her skin. He looked directly at Julieta with a serious expression. Wait a moment. Hearing this, she unconsciously relaxed. Yeezer slowly stroked Julieta's hair. After finishing, he removed his hand from her. Okay. Yeezer narrowed his eyes and smiled playfully. There was some dust on you, so I brushed it off. Julieta was stunned, then hurriedly covered her eyes. He is glowing. She lowered her head, her voice barely audible. Thank you. But running away like that is not like you at all. He nodded slightly. That is right, Julieta. After speaking, Julieta turned to look at Yeezer with a sulky expression. She cleared her throat softly. So, maybe we should set some rules, right? He repeated curiously, rules. Julieta emphasized each word. Yes, rules in our married life. Yeezer repeated, his eyes lighting up as if he had just realized something important. Rules in marriage. She continued, like this morning, we could have made basic mistakes just because we did not understand each other. We wrote a contract for what we needed. Saying this, Julieta turned to look directly at him. But we never really discussed how to arrange our daily married life. Yeezer nodded slightly in agreement. I only thought of it now. Milady is right. Seizing the opportunity, she made a suggestion. Then, let us go back to the bedroom and talk, okay? After a long while, the door slowly opened. Julieta turned and walked straight inside. She did not forget to remind, okay, let us sort everything out clearly. On her side, Yeezer stopped short, his eyes still fixed on Julieta. Seeing this, she stopped and stared at him. Immediately after, Julieta quickly approached. What is wrong, Yeezer? Yeezer hesitated, unable to speak. Well, it is just. He swallowed hard, his face showing tension. Right at this moment, Yeezer unexpectedly grabbed her shoulders. Before the unusual action, Julieta stood still. What is he planning to do? What are you doing, Yeezer? He suddenly fell silent and did not answer. After a moment's silence, Yeezer regained his senses. He hastily withdrew his hands. Sorry, milady. The truth is. Yeezer shyly avoided her gaze. I am not used to bringing other people to my room. Hearing this, Julieta's eyes widened in surprise. What, he really is? She bit her lip, trying to suppress a scream inside. So cute, how can someone be so cute? He spoke slowly with a look of apology. Please forgive my rude behavior just now. Then, in Julieta's mind, thoughts echoed, Yeezer has no siblings, and his parents gave him the title of Duke early on, then moved out to the capital to live a peaceful life. Of course, having someone by his side would make him embarrassed. Right at this moment, she gently took his hand. But I am here. Yeezer's eyes involuntarily lit up before the warmth that was coming. Julieta moved half a step closer, so their sleeves lightly touched. Even now, we are touching, Yeezer. That is right, is not it? Then he suddenly pulled her towards him. Yeezer's cheeks were burning red like tomatoes. He was slightly startled, then chuckled. I understand. Yeezer looked directly at Julieta, his expression so serious that her heart trembled slightly. You are right. It is only now that I feel this marriage is real. Julieta continued, the corners of her lips curving very slightly. That is right, even if it is just a contract marriage. She happily declared, my name will no longer be Orbitian, but Perheim. Julieta suddenly turned, her voice more confident. Whether you want to or not, we will be seeing each other for another 2 years, so you will just have to put up with me. Hearing this, Yeezer tilted his head and looked at her. How could I not like you, milady? Julieta thought to herself, a slight warmth spread to her cheeks. He is really good with words. She quickly regained her composure. Now then, come here. I have thought of some rules while looking for you. Julieta continued, her eyes lighting up. And they are really, really important. He nodded slightly. Okay, I am coming. She cheerfully boasted, and these are the principles I came up with. After a long while, Julieta gently pushed the pen to each line. First, talk to each other for at least 20 minutes each day. Second, share some parts of each other's private lives. To prepare for unexpected situations. Her voice slowed down, more serious. Third, clearly define and explain the duties of a duchess. Julieta paused, her heart wavering for a moment. And fourth is. The atmosphere in the room suddenly quieted down. She looked directly into Yeezer's eyes. This is the most important. Then Julieta emphasized each word. No intimate contact is allowed. Julieta could clearly hear her own heart beating. She could not help but feel a little bewildered. What is going on? Why is the atmosphere so silent and heavy? Julieta swallowed hard. What is this atmosphere, so silent and heavy? Yeezer repeated, his voice calm but thoughtful. No intimate contact. She turned worriedly. Yes, is there a problem? Julieta kept telling herself, I am a person with a conscience. I won't act like a rogue with someone as innocent as him. Setting that rule also makes me suffer, you know. He was silent for a while then said, among the conditions you set for your partner, I remember there was a requirement that he be an ideal husband. Julieta nodded instinctively then asked blankly, yes, that is right. So what? Yeezer explained, his voice even but very logical. When appearing in front of people as a harmonious couple, intimate contact is unavoidable. He continued, his eyes becoming firm. So, if. Yeezer said clearly, let us add a clause that contact is allowed when there is consent from the other party. Julieta blinked a few times. That. She suddenly woke up. I have only just thought of it now. That noble families, after getting married, the husband will be responsible for escorting his wife. Putting an arm around her shoulder, holding hands. And when dancing, physical contact is inevitable. After a moment's silence, Julieta nodded in agreement. You are right. I only thought of it now. She frowned slightly, then seriously analyzed, if I calmly reconsider, this condition is kind of wrong, but whatever. The innocent Yeezer would not dare do anything. Besides, that level of touching is fine with him too. Then Julieta declared emphatically, agreed then, let us add intimate contact is allowed if the other party agrees. Receiving the answer, Yeezer quickly replied, I agree. Julieta relaxed, a feeling of relief spreading. Arranging everything one by one like this. I realize that getting married is really complicated. She said after a moment's thought, I think this much is okay. Now it is your turn to add any conditions you want. Hearing this, Yeezer was silent. He thought seriously. Yeezer spoke slowly. I do not have many requirements. Then he hesitantly spoke. How about this, no having a lover on the side? Julieta repeated blankly, lover. She clapped her hands and laughed softly. I like this clause. Even if it is just a contract marriage, if the other party has a lover, this peaceful marriage will turn into a bloody disaster. Thinking this, Julieta's inner self immediately resisted. That can't happen. Immediately after, she seriously made a suggestion. Then we can write, within the 2 years of marriage, no having a lover on the side is allowed. After writing a few lines, Julieta fell into contemplation again. Also, after the divorce, one of the two will date someone else, which is also natural. After finishing, she curiously turned to look at him. Yeezer, why are not you answering? Julieta stopped mid-sentence. His expression looks. His eyebrows are slightly furrowed, his lips are pressed tightly, his eyes are drooping as if trying to hide something. Julieta quickly made a guess. He is sulking. He still did not answer her, seemingly something was wrong. Julieta asked again, her voice carrying a hint of real concern. Yeezer, did I write something wrong? Yeezer quickly replied, but his voice was noticeably lower, making the answer sound unconvincing. Nothing at all. She was still not completely bewildered. Then why does he look so sad? After speaking, Julieta suddenly woke up as if she had realized something. She suddenly said, then walked closer. The distance between the two narrowed. Let me see. He hesitantly asked, his voice slightly tense, seemingly not understanding what was happening. Why are you getting so close? Julieta said quickly, her voice decisive but not at all commanding. Close your eyes, Yeezer. Hearing this, Yeezer worriedly asked. You mean, close my eyes? She could not help but marvel, his eyes are too beautiful. Then she gestured, yes, close your eyes. Julieta said more softly, tilting her head closer. I will blow them, do not be startled. Immediately after, she came closer, a light gust of wind passed. Julieta did not forget to ask, stepping back half a step to clearly see his reaction. The dust is gone, right? She continued, her voice mixed with a hint of reproach. If dust gets in your eyes, just say so. Why hide it? Hearing this, Yeezer lowered his head. He said in a barely audible voice. You are right. Yeezer lowered his voice. Just now, there was dust in my eye. Hearing this, Julieta looked happy. I knew it. Are your eyes better now? He cleared his throat softly. I will go to the bathroom for a bit. Seeing this, she worriedly asked quickly. Are your eyes still not okay? Yeezer closed his eyes tightly. He replied awkwardly, yes, it seems like there is still some. Saying this, Yeezer hurriedly turned around. Excuse me for a moment. As soon as he left, Julieta was lost in unspoken thought. She mumbled when she was alone, is spring coming early, but it is not cold today. Then Julieta had an internal monologue. Do men's ears turn red easily? After speaking, she could not help but feel a little bewildered. Wislet never did. Then Julieta quickly came to a conclusion. Maybe Yeezer's ears are naturally like that. Immediately after, Yeezer turned around. She looked at him with wide eyes. You are back. Yeezer's face was wet with water. Seeing this, she did not forget to ask him. Yeezer, you just washed your face, is all the dust gone? He quickly replied. Yes, it is okay now. Julieta breathed a very small sigh. Thank goodness. Now, let us continue with the rules we were working on. Yeezer chuckled. Okay. He hesitated slightly, his eyes shifting for a very short moment. If you do not mind, can I suggest one more condition? She answered immediately without hesitation. Feel free. What is it? Julieta could not help but be curious. What is he going to say? Yeezer spoke slowly, each word carefully considered. How about this? Immediately after, he made a suggestion. Spend free time together. Hearing this, she was silent. Julieta repeated, tilting her head slightly. You mean, spend free time together? She was silent for a second, then continued in a gentler voice. Is that really okay? I will understand if you want to rest alone, Yeezer. Julieta thought to herself. With Yeezer's personality, he probably said that because he is worried about me. Anyway, when someone is left alone in a mansion this big, they will feel a little lonely. But who am I? At the Count's mansion, I mostly lived in seclusion and learned how to survive without a smartphone. Julieta said in a loud, reassuring voice. So you do not need to worry about me. I am fine alone. Yeezer worriedly asked. Really? He smirked, his tone low. Even so. Yeezer continued, his voice low, so sincere that the air trembled slightly. I want to spend time with you, like an ideal husband should. As soon as the words were spoken, her whole body almost froze. Julieta hurriedly spoke. Wait, hey, Yeezer. She looked directly at him. Is there something you really want to do with me? Yeezer hesitated for a moment. Milady. He lowered his voice. Am I asking for too much? That is why you are saying that. Hearing this, Julieta hastily denied. No, not at all. She continued, her voice slowing down, as if searching her heart. It is just, I sometimes imagine things like that. When you have someone you love, the scene of going to school together on the street, side by side. Eating our favorite foods and chatting together. Enjoying each other's hobbies. Thinking this, Julieta gave a soft smile, like those moments. At that moment, their eyes involuntarily met. She turned to look at Yeezer. So I think maybe Yeezer also wants to try those little dreams, and that is why he said that. It does not mean anything serious. He hesitated for a moment. That. Then Yeezer sadly nodded. Maybe that is right. I am sorry. He continued, his tone trembling slightly. I did not intentionally make you uncomfortable. I let my emotions get ahead of my reason and said it without thinking. Julieta thought to herself, looking at that familiar shyness. No, I did not mean that at all. Why is he getting shy again? After a moment's silence, she called softly. Yeezer. He answered, slightly surprised. Yes, milady. Julieta hesitated for a beat, then mustered all her courage. Can I hold your hand? Yeezer stopped, then hesitantly asked. What did you just say? She spoke more slowly, her body pressing closer. Can I not? Or is it not allowed? He was flustered, clearly not knowing how to react. That. Julieta sighed inwardly. Really, he is too innocent. She said in a serious but not heavy tone. Listen, Yeezer. Julieta gently took Yeezer's hand. I never thought your actions made me uncomfortable. She continued with a sincere gaze. And just as you are trying to be an ideal husband, I will try to become the ideal wife you want. That is our contract, right? Yeezer said softly, his eyes downcast. But, milady. Julieta quickly cut him off. That is forbidden now. She said immediately, half joking, half serious. Don't make that sad expression with those droopy eyes anymore. Yeezer was still shocked. But why? Julieta interrupted, her voice gentle but firm. And that is not all. From now on, you are not allowed to apologize first anymore. He looked up at her, his voice carrying real confusion. Then what does Julieta really want from me? She answered immediately, without hesitation. Yes. Julieta looked directly into Yeezer's eyes. Only one thing. That throughout these 2 years of marriage, we will both be happy. Hearing that, he hesitated slightly. But. Yeezer softly added, this is just a contract marriage that I forced you into. She immediately denied. Forced, no way. We both agreed, Yeezer. Julieta continued in a sincere tone. That is right, Yeezer. Even though I am not the person you truly love. She spoke slowly, her voice not loud but each word clear, as if she had thought for a long time before speaking. I will still marry you, talk to you, and become someone you can share your worries with. Even in a contract marriage, there is no reason for our time together to be unhappy. Julieta smiled, a gentle smile but with a rare determination. Moreover, my contract husband has a smile that suits him more than anyone else in the world. Yeezer's body almost froze in that moment. Yeezer softly called her name then laughed. Julieta, you really. Julieta thought to herself when she saw the corners of his lips curve cautiously. As expected, he really looks the best when he smiles. Yeezer continued, after a short pause. Julieta, can I add one more rule? She answered immediately, without hesitation. Of course, go ahead. He spoke more slowly than usual. That you will always listen to me until the end. Yeezer asked, his voice not commanding. Can you promise? Julieta was slightly confused. Isn't that what he meant? He shook his head very slightly, as if denying it. No, what I mean is. Yeezer took a deep breath, then called her name once more, slowly and clearly. Julieta. He continued, his voice low but not trembling, each word as if placed down with all sincerity. You are really very lovely. On her side, Julieta's eyes widened in confusion. She was slightly stunned, her heart skipping a beat. Did I hear wrong? Julieta kept asking herself, what did he just say to me? Yeezer continued, his eyes not avoiding hers at all. That is what I wanted to say. His voice was smaller but firm. Can I add it to the rule? Julieta stared blankly at the contract. That is. Standing before the proposal from Yeezer, Julieta hesitated slightly. That. Then she suddenly screamed, shaking the room. No, I can't accept this. His face immediately fell like a wet puppy. Not stopping there, Julieta continued to command. Saying "you are so lovely" to your contract wife is also forbidden, quickly add that to the rule. After a long while, Julieta reacted. She stared at Yeezer with a determined look. No matter how you look at me, I can't back down. In any business relationship, there must be clear boundaries. If he keeps being so nice, and we really develop feelings. Thinking this, Julieta frowned slightly and frantically denied. No, impossible. The man before me is someone who, for a very long time, has only looked at one woman. Yet, he is infatuated with a wife he's only met a few days ago. The more Julieta thought, the more energetic she became. She shook her head incessantly. That would be a serious absurdity, no, absolutely impossible. On her side, Yeezer looked at Julieta with bewildered eyes. He tentatively asked. Do we really have to add that to the rule? Julieta slammed her hand on the paper. She almost screamed. Of course we have to add it, hurry up. She hesitated a bit, then as if she suddenly remembered something. And one more thing. Yeezer stared blankly at Julieta. What is it? She turned around abruptly, her eyes looking directly at him. Don't treat other women this well. As soon as the words were spoken, the entire space fell silent. Yeezer's cheeks were burning red. He picked up the pen without hesitation and quickly wrote a few words. Yeezer slowly wrote the words. Forbidden to say, spend time, not be kind to other women. After finishing, he smiled faintly and did not forget to affirm. Milady, I will definitely follow that rule. Hearing this, Julieta was silent. She stared at him. You better be, otherwise, some young ladies might misunderstand. And so, after so much back and forth, the rules of our contract marriage were decided. Night quickly fell and swallowed the room. Inside, Julieta and Yeezer lay in the same bed. At this time, he was almost unable to sleep due to tension. Immediately after, Yeezer sat up, then used his hand to rub his throbbing head. Yeezer tentatively turned to look at Julieta, who was fast asleep. Then, he looked at her for a long time, then made a decision. So my wife won't be startled, it is best if I put on clothes first. Yeezer quickly left the bed and put on his cloak. After finishing, he turned around, his eyes thoughtfully looking at Julieta. Yeezer smiled unconsciously. Looking at her so quietly like this. I feel like at any moment, she will open those beautiful, sparkling eyes and... Right at that moment, Julieta slowly opened her eyes, her eyelashes fluttering slightly. Julieta quickly sat up, staring blankly as soon as she saw Yeezer. Why are you staring at my face? Is there something on my face? Returning to reality, he covered his mouth and chuckled, asking that question in such a cute voice. Why, just by looking at her, can't I stop smiling? I kept making up excuses, foolishly swallowing the pain inside the mansion. On the day of the national wedding ceremony, when everyone was celebrating, I could not even bear to go. Thinking this, Yeezer once again turned to look at her. You are so strange. He gently stroked Julieta's hair, and kept complaining, his voice only soft. You keep filling my mind, making me smile, knocking on the door of my heart. Saying this, Yeezer lowered his voice then questioned. Even then, you made me laugh. Why did not you recognize me? He looked at Julieta with a pained expression. When I went to the Count's house, I hoped you would recognize me. Her bright face reappeared in his mind. Yeezer's voice trembled slightly. But you treated me as if it was the first time we met. He did not deny it but frankly admitted. Honestly, that hurt me. For me, it was a memory that left quite a deep impression. Saying this, Yeezer sighed helplessly. It is a pity, because you did not remember clearly when you drank too much. He continued, his voice sounding slowly like the wind. Maybe you do not even remember saying that love that permeates little by little is more terrifying than love at first sight. Suddenly Yeezer stopped. He lowered his voice. Even so. Yeezer smiled, then he honestly added. I am really looking forward to the days I get to be with you. After speaking, Yeezer narrowed his eyes and smiled brightly, a rare innocent smile. He lowered his head then whispered for a moment. I am going, my milady. As soon as the words were spoken, Julieta suddenly turned over. She groaned softly. The scene shifted to the next morning, the sunlight lightly covering the mansion. Inside, Julieta comfortably stretched her shoulders in the bright sunlight. She sat up and yawned a lot. I slept so well. Julieta turned to look at the empty bed without reacting. Yeezer, it seems like he has gone to training. He is really diligent. Even after going through all that training, he will be busy with tasks, handling the affairs of the territory. That thought silently passed through Julietta's mind as the morning light filtered through the curtains. She involuntarily spoke out loud. Is there no way I can help, even just a little? A voice came from outside, steady but still polite. May I come in? Hearing this, she immediately woke up. Ah, yes, come in. Amber bowed as soon as she appeared. Milady, did you sleep well? Julietta quickly responded, smiling lightly to reassure. Yes, so. My experienced close servant, Amber. She looked around the room, and the girls standing behind her, May, Chelsea, Brinny, right, only now looking closely, they carry quite a serious atmosphere. I thought because they are near Yeezer, they would be gentler. Julietta politely asked. Did you come to wake me up? Thank you. Ah, the Duke must have already had breakfast, right, she responded immediately, her tone still polite. No, he has not eaten yet. She repeated, leaning slightly forward, as if not believing the answer she had just heard. He has not eaten yet. Julietta unconsciously asked again. He has not had breakfast. She continued, her eyes full of suspicion. I thought he already had breakfast because he trained right when the sun was just rising. Seeing this, Amber explained in detail. The Duke usually has a late breakfast, after training. So, you can wash up and eat with him, madam. Julietta slightly widened her eyes, both surprised and confused. Really, she thought to herself. Eating separately is fine, at least for meals. Do we have to act like a loving couple even inside the Duke's house? If that is the case, then I will have to be more careful with my words. She nodded slightly, her voice sounding slowly soon after. I understand. When I was at the Count's mansion, I often ate alone, so this feels really new. At the mansion, family meals were rare. Father and Big Brother were busy, and Wislet usually ate with his fiancée. Hearing this, the servant was slightly doubtful. She repeated. Alone. The servant tilted her head slightly, her voice carrying genuine surprise. Forgive me, I heard that Count Orbitian doted on his daughter very much, so that is surprising. Julietta gave an awkward laugh. At my wedding, they cried a lot. That is right, I think so. She did not forget to explain. Of course, they love me very much. Julietta continued, her tone light as if it was not a big deal. But they are very busy. There is no other way, I should understand them. She asked softly, her voice slowing down as if afraid to touch a sensitive topic. Then, have you ever traveled together? She answered after a moment's silence, her eyes wavering slightly. Not really. The group involuntarily exclaimed, clearly unable to hide their surprise. Huh. Julietta said quickly, her voice softening as she remembered the rare warm memories. The nanny at the Count's house took care of me a lot. My younger brother also played with me sometimes too. That alone made me happy. She thought to herself. Although, the real Julietta probably had to endure a lack of affection, but I am not the real Julietta. Even so, after a moment's silence, Julietta shyly admitted. Maybe that is why I like kind people. She closed her eyes tightly, as fleeting thoughts flashed. Julietta and me, really we do not have anyone to rely on. Amber softly called, her voice small but enough to pull me back to reality. Madam. She walked closer and reassured. Don't worry. Amber continued, her voice firm, causing the servants behind her to shout in unison. From now on, we will take care of you better than anyone. In that moment, she looked directly at Julietta with a determined look. The group behind her nodded in agreement at the same time. She stood still, a confused feeling rising in her heart. Did I say something wrong? The scene shifted to the dining room, which was designed to be extremely luxurious and magnificent. Right at this moment, Julietta blurted out a long sigh. She could clearly feel the atmosphere around her had changed, looking like they had a misunderstanding. I thought she was a pampered lady, filled with love, but it turned out she grew up being neglected by busy family members, enduring silently, so pitiful. And then when she was struggling, Duke Perheim approached. His comfort and kindness swept her into marriage, such a love story. Thinking this, Julietta bit her lip, her heart skipping a beat. This is bad. In everything, it fits together so tightly, so much so that it will spread as if it were the truth. How do I explain now? She had not even thought of any words when a familiar voice spoke, pulling her back to the present. Yeezer suddenly called. Milady, is there something in the meal that does not suit your taste? Julietta opened her mouth slightly, then immediately stopped. That is. Her eyes quickly glanced at the servants standing nearby. No, I can't say in front of all the servants. If that is the case then. Julieta hesitated. It is just. She looked up at him, her smile slightly shy but sincere. It is just that it has been a long time since I have had a meal with someone. Julieta kept telling herself. Use this misunderstanding to look like a harmonious couple. Julieta narrowed her eyes and smiled lightly. Having breakfast with Yeezer makes me feel so happy. After speaking, she admired herself. Yes, I should do that. Yeezer answered almost immediately. Me too. He added, his tone calm but causing her heart to tremble for a beat. I am very happy to eat with my wife. Yeezer's ears were burning red. Julieta's eyes quickly caught that moment. She shyly continued. Let us have a meal together again next time, anytime. Yeezer grinned widely. He quickly replied. Yes, milady. Seeing this, Julieta could not help but marvel. How can he say that so naturally, how embarrassing? She spoke after a moment's silence. Yeezer, after breakfast, would you like to take a walk in the garden for a while? He answered, thinking very quickly. Yes, the weather is still chilly, so I will have the servants bring a coat. Julieta immediately refused. No. She emphasized each word. I want to walk alone with you. Hearing this, Yeezer was silent. The space fell into an awkward state. Julieta worriedly called his name. Yeezer. He quickly replied. I will. Yeezer lowered his head. He said in a low voice. I will quickly finish my meal. Before his reaction, Julieta worriedly reminded. You do not have to rush. She stared at Yeezer, then unconsciously thought. He really has a side to him that I did not expect. The scene shifted to the garden, where everything was dyed a bluish color. At the same time, Julieta and Yeezer walked side by side along the path. She stopped and turned to ask softly. Yeezer, the other servants will come here, right? He answered immediately, his voice certain. They won't come, milady. You said you wanted to walk alone with me, right? Julieta nodded, then hesitated slightly. That is right, but I am just worried. Seeing this, Yeezer worriedly asked. Is there something important you want to say? Julieta immediately turned around. She bluntly admitted. Of course there is. She asked, her tone somewhat hurried with fear. This marriage contract, none of the servants know about it, right? After speaking, Julieta emphasized each word. So this is a contract marriage that none of the other servants know about. On the opposite side, Yeezer sighed for the first time. He asked quickly with urgency. Does that bother you? She breathed a long sigh, her voice carrying clear confusion. Yes, a lot. Julieta continued, frowning slightly as she spoke. I think they mistook me for someone who was neglected in the Count's family. She opened her mouth and poured out a stream, as if trying to gather her jumbled thoughts. And even worse, I unintentionally said that I like kind people, so with your kindness. The rumor that we are deeply in love must have spread already. No doubt, it must be like that already. Yeezer spoke, his voice steady and slow, like an invisible hand placed on Julieta's shoulder. First, calm down, Julieta. He continued, his eyes softening noticeably. No need to rush. Tell me what happened. Seeing this, she immediately retracted her urgent appearance. Julieta took a deep breath before starting. Everything is like this. After a long while, she sighed in relief. Everything happened like that. Yeezer pondered after listening, his eyes showing a hint of deep thought. I see. He said slowly. If you do not mind, I want to hear about your past. Julieta could not help but feel a little confused, her eyes unconsciously moving elsewhere. My past. She said in a dry voice. It is not a happy story. Yeezer answered immediately, without hesitation. It is okay. I want to hear about it. He continued, his voice more serious. Moreover, if we want to resolve these misunderstandings, I need to understand your story first, right? Before Yeezer's determined appearance, Julieta seemed unable to refuse. She nodded slightly, her shoulders relaxing slightly. Then, okay. Julieta gently reached out to him. I will tell it lightly. The scene focused again on the familiar garden. At the same time, she started, her voice even but lowered. You must have looked into the Orbitian Count's family, so maybe you already know. Julieta continued, her eyes looking at the gravel path under her feet. When I was young, my mother passed away after a long illness, due to complications after giving birth to me. She said softly, each word heavy. This is when Julieta's lack of affection started. Honestly, because she was almost always bedridden, I do not have many close memories of her. Maybe that is why I was not too sad when she passed away. Now I do not even remember her. More than anything, I just felt lost among my grieving father and brothers. Looking back now, perhaps they resented Julieta. After all, the countess died from complications after giving birth to her. Hearing this, Yeezer comforted gently. That must have been very difficult for you. Julieta forced a strained smile. I do not know either. She thought to herself. Frankly, the person who experienced that is not even me. Julieta continued, her eyes absent-mindedly looking down at her feet. But they soon recovered and treated me well, even though they were always busy. Maybe because they felt guilty for neglecting an innocent child for a while. Her father and brothers loved Julieta very much. But she never forgot the memories of being neglected in her childhood, and always felt lonely, until the day she had a fever and passed away, when I took over her body. She sighed softly, a heavy breath escaping. Thinking about it now, her childhood was too lonely and tragic, for someone who is supposed to be a villain. Julieta closed her eyes, unable to hide the pity in her heart. So pitiful. Yeezer spoke after a short silence, his eyes softening but still not leaving her. I heard you were in seclusion for a while. What made you change your mind? Julieta thought to herself, her heart beating slightly faster. If he means being in seclusion, then that is after I took over her body. She clenched her fist. Change my mind, honestly, I just wanted to survive. Julieta added, her tone strangely detached. I just want to live a long life. As soon as the words were spoken, Yeezer stared blankly at her. At that moment, Julieta unconsciously looked directly into his eyes. She laughed awkwardly when she saw his eyes suddenly become serious. I was just joking. Just joking. Julieta spoke faster. Why are you looking at me so seriously? Of course, it was just a joke. She said to herself. Anyway, no one would believe something like that. Yeezer frankly admitted, I was just worried. Hearing this, the smile on her lips froze. Yeezer asked again, his voice low but firm. His eyes did not allow Julieta to evade. Nothing serious happened to you, did it? She smiled faintly, seemingly feeling bitter herself. After a moment's silence, Julieta answered immediately. Of course nothing happened. In her heart, she was secretly surprised. He took my ridiculous words seriously, and somehow warmed my heart. I have to be more careful. Yeezer said, the corners of his lips curving into a light smile that noticeably softened the atmosphere. Then I am relieved. That kindness. It touches people's hearts naturally. He did not forget to remind. But I think there has been a misunderstanding. Julieta asked, tilting her head slightly. A vague premonition began to rise in her heart. What do you mean? Yeezer said clearly. Your maid, Amber, knows about our contract marriage, and so does the steward. She almost froze in that moment. Julieta was stunned, her inner self almost screaming. But they did not show it at all. Yeezer continued, as if he had just pieced everything together in his head. I just thought of something. She asked immediately, her heart beating slightly faster. What is it? He said slowly. I think, perhaps the head maid acted that way just to make us look closer. Yeezer continued, his tone passing through a trace of nostalgia. She raised me since I was little, and she saw me suffer because of unrequited love. Saying this, he quickly came to a conclusion. So I think that is the reason, although that may have caused trouble for you. Julieta secretly confirmed. No wonder she looks like a veteran. So that is it. A thought flashed through her head. Wait, if that is really the case. Julieta spoke quickly, her voice much more serious. Yeezer, can I ask you something? He answered immediately, without hesitation. Of course. She asked slowly, her eyes not leaving his. Breakfast, you do not usually eat this late, do you? Suddenly everything fell silent. Julieta worriedly called his name. Yeezer. However, he did not respond to her call. Seeing this, Julieta once again called loudly. Yeezer. Still as before, he did not react to her voice. Julieta's voice intentionally dragged out, her eyes fixed on him, carrying a hint of investigation mixed with helplessness. Be honest, the servants called you to have breakfast with me. So, you deliberately delayed your breakfast, did not you? He laughed bitterly. Was I exposed? That is right, no doubt about it. After a long while, Yeezer opened his mouth to sigh. I know. Julieta immediately ordered, her eyes not at all angry, only worried. Please do not do that anymore. It makes me uncomfortable. You skipped a meal, and even disrupted your important morning training. Yeezer answered immediately, his voice lowered in a way that was so sincere it was hard to resist. I am sorry, but I really wanted to have breakfast with my wife. Julieta thought to herself when she saw that rare weakness. I absolutely can't resist a pretty boy showing such weakness. She tried to keep her voice calm. Even so, having breakfast together is a bit too much. Julieta continued, shaking her head lightly. I can't wake up as early as you, and I do not want you to push back your schedule because of me. Saying this, she paused slightly. So. Julieta hesitated, her eyes becoming wavering. But, one of the rules we have stipulated for married life is spending time together, right? She asked quickly, trying to find a compromise. You still continue to train after breakfast, right? He nodded certainly. That is right, if there is no urgent matter. Julieta smiled, her eyes lighting up with an idea that had just occurred to her. Wonderful, then we can spend time together afterwards. Yeezer asked again, his voice carrying a hint of hesitation, very softly. Is that really okay with you, madam? She answered immediately in a natural way. Why would not it be okay, he worriedly replied. During training, I might not be able to take care of you properly. Yeezer continued, his eyes slightly avoiding hers. Even if you are just watching, you will only see me covered in sweat. That is not a sight to bear. Julieta widened her eyes at him. He is shy. Actually, she unconsciously opened her mouth. I think it is very good, though. Seeing Yeezer's surprised eyes, Julieta quickly corrected herself. No, what I mean is. She continued to add. I do not plan to just watch. Hearing this, he frowned slightly, his tone somewhat doubtful. Then. Julieta took a light breath, then said clearly. What I mean is I want to try it together with you. Yeezer was stunned, his eyes widening. What? He could not help but feel a little confused. You, madam. She answered quickly without hesitation. That is right. Julieta hesitated slightly. However, I am not a professional knight, so please be gentle with me. Yeezer's face suddenly hardened, his eyes turning into bullets. She felt slightly embarrassed when she realized the atmosphere had suddenly changed. Her heart beat a little faster. What is this? Why does the atmosphere suddenly seem different from usual? Did I say something wrong? For some reason, I feel so worried. Yeezer spoke after a beat of silence, his voice lowering. Madam, can you lend me your hand for a moment? She answered, reaching out her hand without thinking too much. Sure, of course. Julieta thought to herself when she saw him gently raise her hand. What is he planning to do? Yeezer caressed Julieta's fingers. Yeezer said slowly, his eyes following each movement. Before, when you touched my chest, I was too embarrassed to notice. She asked confused. But why are we talking about that now? He continued, his finger lightly rotating her hand. This is really the hand of someone who has held a sword before. Yeezer asked softly, his voice carrying more sincere curiosity than frivolousness. Can I touch it a little more? Julieta answered immediately, without hesitation. Of course. He continued to caress the tips of her fingers. You even have calluses from training. Her voice became smaller by reflex. Yes. Julieta thought to herself. It is a little ticklish. Then Yeezer suddenly squeezed the tips of Julieta's fingers lightly. Yeezer stopped immediately. He said quickly, his voice revealing rare worry. Forgive me. Did I hurt you? She shook her head, hurriedly denying, then hesitated, her eyes slightly shifting. No, it does not hurt at all. Julieta tried to ease the atmosphere. I just thought, maybe touching like that is enough, right? On her side, Yeezer's cheeks immediately burned red. He released her hand, slowly and carefully. I am sorry. I was too engrossed in checking how you hold a sword. I was too focused and bothered you. Julieta answered immediately, her voice trying to stay natural. No, I am fine. Really? In that moment, Julieta clenched her fist. Actually, I am not fine at all. It feels like the warmth from his hand is still lingering in my hand. The warmth of two people quickly transmitted directly to each other. I can feel how different a man's hand is compared to a woman's, and how much bigger his hand is than mine. To this extent then. Then she suddenly stood up. Julieta spoke quickly, her tone slightly hurried. It is time for us to go, right? Yeezer answered, nodding, his voice lowered, without asking any further questions. That is right. The garden returned to its original peaceful state. Julieta and Yeezer walked beside each other like that. She bit her lip shyly. How embarrassing. Finally, Julieta could not help but speak. You know. He immediately stopped and turned to her. What is wrong, madam? Julieta suddenly questioned. You are not planning to run away again, are you? Hearing this, Yeezer nodded quickly. Of course, you hate that, how would I dare do that? Receiving the answer, she secretly sighed in relief. Thank goodness, so he won't leave again this time. Yeezer suddenly walked in front of Julieta. Then. He looked directly at her with sincere eyes. What about you, madam? In that moment, Julieta was completely stunned. Yeezer continued to ask but had changed his address. What about you, milady? Julieta turned her head, blinking. Me. She answered hesitantly. Why would I run away? Then Julieta suddenly remembered his touch. As soon as the thought ended, her cheeks unconsciously heated up. After a moment's silence, Julieta softly spoke. What I mean is. She casually made a suggestion. What if I hit you? Yeezer answered quickly. Milady. Seeing this, Julieta was embarrassed. That. He chuckled. I understand. I used to be like that too. Yeezer continued, his voice lowered. Even so. He did not forget to remind. If you avoid me, I will be very sad. Hearing this, Julieta did not dare to react. Yeezer finished, looking directly into her eyes. So I hope that you won't do that. At that moment, his expression when saying that was a smile full of sorrow and loss. Yeezer just stood there, watching Bertish's back as she left. Because the smile she gave Camilio was dazzlingly bright. He did not dare break that happiness. The persistent rain mixed with his tears, wetting the arid land. A vague thought flashed in Julieta's head. That is a passage from the novel that suddenly appeared in my mind. Meaningless phrases began to appear. A foolish person, selfless. She clenched her skirt in anger. Always thinking of others. Someone who always pretends as if they are okay with everything. Then Julieta unconsciously spoke aloud. Just because you are smiling does not mean everything is okay. She placed her hand in the middle of her chest. I won't avoid you, so do not smile like that. It looks so sad, it hurts my heart. Yeezer was completely stunned, his eyes blankly looking at Julieta. A beat of silence fell between the two people. She frowned slightly. How can there be someone who has no desires at all? He is just suppressing them. To the point of not realizing that the inside is gradually rotting. Yeezer spoke, his voice low and slow, as if afraid that just a little louder would break something fragile. Did I hurt you? I am sorry. Julieta boredly cut him off. Don't casually say sorry like that. She continued to add. Sometimes I feel that you do not cherish yourself. Yeezer, you are too considerate of others. Julieta unexpectedly grabbed his hand. I am the one who has to adapt. She suddenly asked, trying to pull the conversation back to reality. Only the head steward and the steward know about our marriage contract, right? Yeezer hesitantly replied. That is right, but, your hand. Julieta said decisively, then put her hand in the air. Let us fix that so we can hold hands without the other's permission. She continued, trying to keep her voice calm. Because we at least have to become intimate in the eyes of the other servants, who do not know the truth about this marriage. Julieta gently stroked his hand. We will practice holding hands more from now on. We can't be embarrassed like today every time. Moreover, if I back down just because I am shy, I am afraid he will smile that sad smile again. She once again looked directly into Yeezer's eyes. I do not want that. He spoke, his voice carrying a rare hint of confusion. Milady, are you really ready to hold my hand? She muttered, turning her face halfway away. Oh God, can't you see my face is turning red? It is definitely very embarrassing. After speaking, Julieta worriedly turned to look at Yeezer. Actually, with someone as innocent as him, being a wife in name only really is not easy at all. He suddenly called. Madam. Yeezer casually spoke, his voice softening. You are so lovely. Hearing this, Julieta suddenly woke up. She immediately reacted. Hey, do not you remember our rules? It is in the forbidden things. Julieta mumbled, her heart beating wildly. So suddenly, how embarrassing. Saying I am lovely. Yeezer blankly asked. Didn't we only prohibit cute? She said coldly. I just added a new word, starting now. Hearing this, he laughed softly. How cruel. Julieta stared blankly at Yeezer. She could not help but feel a little doubtful. When did his face shine like spring like that? Meanwhile, he was still laughing. Sunlight began to shine down on the entire garden. Two people were seen walking hand in hand. Julieta and Yeezer's hands were tightly clenched, not letting go. She suddenly stopped walking, her eyes widening. Ah, that is right. Without thinking, Julieta turned around abruptly. Yeezer, there are a few things we need to discuss with each other. He asked again, his voice still as steady as usual, but his eyes had lowered slightly. What is it? She took a short breath, then continued, each word carefully considered. Where should we consider as the first place we have intimate contact, like holding hands? Yeezer tilted his head slightly, clearly not keeping up with Julieta's meaning. She worriedly called. Yeezer. He hurriedly added, his voice a little softer. What you mean is? Yeezer said hesitantly, his eyes widening a little more. You are including things like our first kiss too. Yeezer stopped slightly, his voice carrying undisguised curiosity mixed with caution. Do you include other things like our first kiss in that? In that moment, Julieta was almost unable to answer. She was silent for a very long time afterwards. Her heart skipped a beat. Those two words echoed in her head like small bells. Kiss. Julieta's eyes stopped at Yeezer's lips. Head. Thinking this, her cheeks flushed red like rose petals. Julieta took a deep breath, regaining her composure. That. Her eyes shone with a serious expression as if discussing something very important, even though the tips of her fingers were unconsciously wiggling. That is right, we should decide that too. Julieta tilted her head slightly, thinking, her voice slow but decisive as if outlining a plan that could not be sloppy. The location of our first kiss. That is right. Seeing her flustered appearance, Yeezer could not help but laugh. Then he gently touched Julieta's messy hair. Yeezer had already moved closer, he gently stroked her hair. Before the sudden action, Julieta was almost dizzy. Yeezer looked at her intently, his eyes deep but profound. Can I consider this closeness as your permission? On her side, Julieta still did not react to the question. She shyly pulled back her hair then slowly said. We have already allowed holding hands, I do not mind things like that. Julieta's voice softened, carrying a hint of dreaminess. Moreover. She looked up, her eyes unconsciously looking directly at Yeezer. Our first kiss. Each word was as if woven by Julieta from a very beautiful imaginary scene. Let us say it happens by a quiet lake, when a gentle breeze blows like now. She continued to describe with unconscious demonstrative actions, as if that scene had been clear in her head for a long time. And Yeezer gently brushes a strand of hair to the side before leaning in. How does that sound? Hearing this, he smiled softly, a smile so gentle that the hearts of those opposite would sway. Yeezer answered lightly, his warm voice blending with the wind. Yes, Julieta. Meanwhile, Julieta reassured herself with reason. The way he looks at me, it is probably a common occurrence in a contract marriage. She did not forget to remind. There are still many details that we need to discuss with each other, let us decide step by step for the remaining things. Julieta turned her head slightly, hiding her irregular heartbeat, and kept telling herself. And I have to be careful, not to fall for this kind man in the next 2 years. Yeezer tilted his head, his eyes shining with a rare hint of playfulness, as if an idea had just occurred to him. Milady, can we say that our first meeting was at a lively bar? She was a little surprised, but still agreed, her voice carrying undisguised curiosity. Yes, okay. Julieta asked quickly, curiously. But, is there any reason you chose that place? He stopped short for a moment. Then Yeezer covered his mouth and burst out laughing clearly. He lowered his voice as much as possible. That is a secret. After a long while, the sunlight became increasingly bright. The scene shifted inside the mansion. At the same time, Julieta gently spun the pen in her hand. Done. On the opposite side, the steward looked attentively at the contract that had just been established. The atmosphere turned more serious. He seriously asked. Have you ever managed budget books like this before? She answered quickly. Yes. Julieta hesitated slightly, her eyes passing over old memories, her voice slowing down when mentioning her family. After my mother passed away, there was no one to oversee the Count's affairs anymore. She continued, her voice even but steady. When I was old enough to be educated, I sometimes managed the mansion myself. Saying this, Julieta secretly laughed in her heart. More accurately, I took the experiences from my previous life, and voluntarily helped handle the work while living in seclusion. The steward immediately spoke with clear apology. "I am sorry, milady." He bowed slightly. "I spoke carelessly." Julieta shook her head, showing a light but strong smile. "It is okay," she said to herself. "I have not even met her in this life. So I do not have intense feelings, but it is best not to say it, it will only stir up bad rumors." Julieta continued in a light tone. "I am fine. Tell me about the other tasks. I will try my best to fulfill the duties of a duchess while I am here." She raised her head, her eyes serious and responsible. Of course, the important things related to the family still need to be kept secret. After all, one day I have to leave. On her side, the steward suddenly clenched his fist. He looked at her for a long time, his eyes slightly sad when hearing about the inevitable day of separation. "Hearing you say you will leave one day, makes me feel sad, madam." Hearing this, Julieta was slightly stunned, her eyes wavering slightly. Julieta breathed lightly, realizing the warmth spreading from this family, both gentle and making people reluctant to leave. Why is everyone in the Duke's family so affectionate? She smiled, as if accepting the unchangeable. Her voice carried gentle helplessness. "But that is the truth," the Duke agreed, "and so did I." The steward lowered his head, his voice sincere, not hiding the care for Julieta. "Even so, I still want to serve you as if you are not someone who will leave." Hearing this, she laughed softly. "Oh God, if you have said that, then I can't refute it." Immediately after, Julieta gave a decisive order. "Okay, let us review the remaining tasks for today and finish them." He answered quickly. "Yes, madam." In another development, a series of shirts and dresses were neatly arranged in the room. At the same time, Julieta appeared in a very neat and pristine outfit. Seeing this, Amber worriedly asked, "Milady, does the outfit fit well?" Julieta looked at herself, feeling the soft fabric hugging her snugly enough, without being restrictive. A rare comfortable feeling that made her smile sincerely. "Yes, it is perfect, they are so comfortable." In that moment, Julieta unconsciously realized. "I have been so busy studying that I forgot about the rules of married life." Yeazer did not say anything, but if I do not spend time with him, I will become an indifferent wife. She could not help but marvel. "It is good that it suits you." Amber slightly narrowed her eyes, remembering the unexpected request from this morning. Her voice still carried a hint of surprise that had not completely faded. "When Milady suddenly requested to prepare training clothes for the knights, I was startled." Julieta laughed lightly. "Oh, really, but it is just comfortable clothes. Not armor or anything." She nodded slowly. "Most noble ladies would never wear that kind of clothing." She smiled casually. "That is true." Julieta sighed softly, remembering the heavy, elaborate dresses, and a thought could not help but pop up in her heart. "But really, how could I go to the training ground in that gaudy dress?" She turned to Amber. "Anyway, thank you. Can I go now?" She nodded slightly. "Yes." Immediately after, she quickly moved outside. As soon as they saw Julieta, the servants quickly offered, "Let me escort you to the training ground." In another development, Yeazer was constantly gasping for breath, only to see the sunlight becoming increasingly bright. As soon as she moved to the training grounds, Julieta could not help but marvel. She stood before the vast space, her mouth mouthing words. "So this is the training field." Right at that moment, he approached. "Madam, you have arrived." Julieta immediately reacted. "Yeazer." He looked down at her outfit, frowning slightly in concern. "The dust will get your clothes dirty, are you okay with that?" She smiled, her eyes shining with determination, her voice decisive without hesitation. "Of course, if I minded that, I would not have come here." Julieta tilted her head thinking more, then looked at Yeazer with genuine concern. "More importantly, is not the training very strenuous? I hope I won't cause a distraction." He chuckled softly, shaking his head lightly as if to dispel that worry. "Not really. You have held a sword, so you must know." Yeazer looked towards the knights who were training seriously, his voice carrying hidden pride. When someone else is watching, the knights can't relax, they actually train even harder. Julieta suddenly burst out laughing, remembering a familiar memory in the Count's mansion. "Now that I think about it, when I was in the Count's mansion, everyone worked twice as hard whenever I was present, probably because they were afraid my father would find out." She could not help but admire secretly. "But the Blue Knights of the Perheim Duke family are famous for their discipline. Does anyone here really dare to be lazy?" Hearing this, Yeezer chuckled. Each group will have at least one lazy person, right? Julieta hesitated slightly, she was about to continue, even so. Then Julieta said decisively. I think that in the capacity of commander, you have managed them very well. Yeezer turned to look at her, slightly surprised by that frank assessment, the corners of his mouth curving up. He shyly replied quickly. Thank you, madam. At the same time, fierce sounds rang out in the training field. Julieta took a breath, her eyes shining with undisguised eagerness. By the way, she unexpectedly made a suggestion. Since I am here, I want to try sparring. The surrounding atmosphere immediately changed. Yeezer was startled, his voice sounded worried. That won't do, madam, this is very dangerous. Another knight unconsciously spoke. Madam, would you like to try a match with me? As soon as he saw his eyes, he immediately lowered his voice. I apologize. Julieta shyly replied. Why not, I do not mind. Yeezer immediately frowned. It is very dangerous, they fight very seriously, and you might get hurt. She turned to look directly at him, her eyes firm but gentle. Then, without hesitation, Julieta made a decisive suggestion. What about you, Yeezer, will you spar with me? You can adjust your strength so I do not get hurt, right? Yeezer was stunned, his eyes wavering clearly. Me. His voice trembled visibly. How can I point a blade at you, madam? She frankly retorted. But I have learned to hold a sword, you know that. Yeezer sighed, remembering what she had said on their wedding night, his voice mixed with a hint of helplessness. That is right, but you are the one who said that on our wedding night. Julieta wildly waved her hands and feet. I do not have muscles, I am weak and frail, how could I threaten you? The Duke said each word, with your small and fragile body. It is impossible. Julieta hurriedly waved her hands, shaking her head to deny. That is right, but it is not the same, what I mean is I am just not as sturdy as you. Yeezer suddenly changed his tone. But you have never touched me before. After speaking, he turned to look at the guards. How? The group simultaneously replied. Things related to marriage, we should probably discuss them when there are no other people present. Julieta and Yeezer just silently observed them. Then the bodies of both of them trembled. Julieta hurriedly waved her hands to deny. It is not like everyone thinks. He gave an awkward laugh. Yes, I understand. The person next to her spoke softly. Of course, we understand. Her inner self almost screamed. How did things turn out like this? Yeezer immediately cleared his throat, breaking the awkward atmosphere. From now on, run around the field, start. The knights simultaneously answered loudly. Yes, Commander, he did not forget to signal. Madam, this way. Only to see the wooden door quickly being opened. At this time, Julieta and Yeezer were still in an embarrassed state. She was silent for a moment, then tentatively opened her mouth. What I mean is. Julieta tilted her head very slightly, as if carefully considering each word. Would something big happen if you sparred with me just once? Yeezer opened his mouth to lament. Madam. She took a slight breath, her chest visibly rising and falling, then continued to add. We have not had a real wedding night and now there is another misunderstanding. He turned his face slightly away, the corners of his mouth twitching into a strained smile. How embarrassing, madam. Julieta frowned very slightly, her lips pressed together. A feeling of both annoyance and unwillingness suddenly rose in her heart. So he still does not agree to spar with me, how infuriating. She crossed her arms before her chest, turning her face halfway away, her voice carrying a hint of undisguised sulkiness. If we really had had a wedding night, then at least I would not feel unfair. The surrounding atmosphere suddenly quieted in an instant. Right after, Julieta came to a conclusion. It can be said that because my husband is not interested in me so we did not. Yeezer was stunned, his eyes widening more than usual. Madam, how can you say that? She turned to look directly at him. Why not, that is the truth. We can't let these silly misunderstandings pile up anymore. He could not refute that. A thought flashed through Julieta's head that startled even herself. I have become bolder, should not tease him like that, but Yeezer's reactions are so interesting. She laughed softly as if wanting to dispel the heavy atmosphere from just now. I am just kidding, Yeezer, but really, why did you fall for that so easily this time? Yeezer wore a dissatisfied expression. Because you said that, so. Julieta sighed, the corners of her lips curving into a forced smile. It really can't be helped. She was suddenly silent for a few seconds, then unexpectedly asked a question. When you divorce me and marry a new wife, will you also react like that to her? His eyelashes fluttered slightly with her voice. That. Yeezer immediately turned around, his voice slow but decisive. That will never happen. He looked directly at her, not evading, each word as if carefully considered. I do not intend to take anyone else as my wife. Julieta widened her eyes, leaning slightly forward. What? She was stunned, her heart beating faster, but still trying to keep her voice calm. Then, after divorcing me, you will live alone for the rest of your life. Yeezer nodded very slightly, he honestly admitted. Almost like that. Julieta's voice softened, carrying a hint of teasing. Come on, do not say it so decisively, people say that a broken heart heals fastest when there is a new love. Yeezer softly replied, his eyes darkening. I know. Then he suddenly asked tentatively. But why, madam, are you talking about our ending? Yeezer's voice was slow, clear. Our time has not ended yet. He took a step closer, lowering his voice. Right now, you are my wife, Julieta. Yeezer's eyes stopped at her face. Right. Hearing this, Julieta was slightly confused. But I am just your contract wife. He shook his head, his voice softening. Even if it is just a contract, the moments we laugh together won't easily disappear, so. Yeezer hesitated a bit, then continued. Let us add one more rule. She repeated unconsciously. A rule. He declared emphatically, as if he had made an important decision. During these 2 years of contract, what if we behave as if we really are husband and wife? Hearing this, Julieta's expression changed. That. She widened her eyes looking at Yeezer, her heart twinging slightly. This is too dangerous. A very clear thought echoed in Julieta's head. That is right, because Yeezer is too charming. If I start behaving like his real wife, what if I end up falling in love with him? Surely, that is impossible. Julieta hesitantly spoke. Yeezer, I think. He suddenly called her name. Julieta. Yeezer tilted his head, his eyes strangely gentle. Isn't it very lonely, living in a marriage where you are always thinking about the day it ends? He continued, his voice slow. Even though we laugh together like this, if we only think about the day everything ends, then that won't be a happy marriage. Yeezer withdrew his smile, he lowered his voice as if giving her a choice. Of course, if this is too difficult for you, then you do not have to agree. She gave a forced smile. How can I say no, when you say it with that face? Julieta looked up at him, slowly speaking. So, does that mean I should not draw a line by calling myself just your contract wife? Yeezer nodded immediately. That is absolutely forbidden, even when you are drunk. She could not help but marvel. Now he is almost wagging his tail. Julieta took a deep breath and reached out her hand towards him. Okay. She nodded in agreement. Let us do it that way. Julieta did not forget to tell herself. It is best to cling to my reason, rather than see those eyes filled with sadness. Julieta sincerely continued. Sorry for always mentioning the ending. Yeezer happily replied. It is okay, but I have one more thing to say. She blankly looked up, her eyes suspiciously looking at him. What is it? Yeezer shrugged his shoulders at this time, his eyes mischievously looking at Julieta. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Yeezer looked at her deeply, his voice so low it almost dissolved into the wind. What if that was just a lie? A sudden gust of wind blew across the training field. Julieta stopped short, asking urgently. What did you just say? Seeing this, his body immediately turned to stone. Immediately after, Yeezer cracked a brilliant smile. He lowered his voice, his tone gentle. It is nothing, madam. Yeezer's voice was deep and slow, his eyes lingering on her face longer than necessary. You are so beautiful, no one would believe if I said that I do not feel anything when I see you. A lie would be exposed immediately. In a flash, night had fallen covering the mansion. Inside the room, Julieta was constantly giggling. She continued to purse her lips and giggle. Yeezer tilted his head slightly, his eyebrows furrowed in confusion. Why are you laughing like that, milady? As soon as she saw him, Julieta jumped. Yeezer. She continued very naturally, as if it had become a habit long ago. I just remembered that you promised to be my sparring partner. After talking outside the hallway for a while, Yeezer finally agreed. He nodded helplessly. Okay. Yeezer lowered his voice, his tone mixed with concession. Anyway, if I did not agree you said you would wake up at dawn. Julieta shrugged, appearing innocent but her eyes sparkled with smugness. Sometimes, a little intimidation is necessary. She did not forget to remind. But you are the captain of the famous Blue Knight team, right? This is an opportunity that will probably never come again. He looked at Julieta, his eyes a little more serious. Do you really want to spar with me that much? She answered immediately, her eyes lighting up like a child who had just touched their dream. Of course, that is what any knight has dreamed of at least once. Even though I am not a real knight. Yeezer could not help but feel a little confused. It is strange, the ladies I know all hate anything that can make their hands calloused. Julieta tilted her head slightly, her eyes becoming more distant, as if remembering a very old time. I had a lot of fun, even though every time I got hurt, my nanny would scold me very severely. But I never wanted to stop. He quickly made a guess. So Count Orbitian actually allowed it. She shook her head very slightly. I never asked for permission. Yeezer was slightly stunned, his eyes flashing with horror. He almost screamed. What? Julieta quickly replied, her voice strangely calm. My father does not know, I told you that, right? He is always busy. Her voice was not reproachful, just simply stating the facts. He is rarely in the mansion, and since I never told him, there is no way he would know. Yeezer was still shocked, he asked curiously and quickly. But why? Julieta casually spoke. It is nothing special, I just knew that he would never allow it. She smiled faintly. He loves me very much, it would only make him worry. Julieta paused slightly, her heart secretly thinking. He does not even know what the real Julieta likes, or the fact that she is no longer here. That is a difficult story. Yeezer hesitated for a moment, then spoke slowly, his voice cautious. This may be a bit rude to say, but... He continued, his voice low and sincere. I am not sure if the love your father has for you is truly love for you in the right sense. Yeezer looked at her deeply. Because when you said that your father loves you, it sounded so painful and sad. Then he unexpectedly asked a question. Does he know what you like? Julieta breathed softly, her gaze calm but containing a lot of emotion. That is right. She laughed drily. He says that he loves me, but, somehow, Yeezer, who has only known me for a short time, understands me more. Because the love of the family always belonged to the real Julieta, I thought that it was not something I should crave for myself. Thinking this, Julieta's heart twinged slightly. And yet. Yeezer took a step forward, his voice firm. Madam, I will try to understand you more, so please tell me anything. He said slowly, each word clear. Whether you are angry or sulking, I will always be by your side. Yeezer took Julieta's hand. He emphasized each word. In the capacity of both your friend and your husband. Right at this moment, a thought rang in her head. Not for the real Julieta, but for me, the one who exists. It is okay to be a little selfish, right? Outside, the starlight slowly shone down on the mansion as if proving the promise. After a moment's silence, Julieta turned to look at him with rare seriousness, her voice slow but honest. By the way, can I share with you something that I have always kept in my heart? Yeezer's gaze softened noticeably, his stance upright but not creating pressure. What is it? She took a soft breath, a forced smile briefly appeared then disappeared, revealing the very real hesitation behind her usual calmness. Well, you know. Julieta frankly admitted. I need to start responding to invitations to tea parties from other ladies. She worriedly asked again. Am I allowed to attend? Yeezer was silent for a moment, his eyes no longer carrying investigation but genuine concern. Yeezer hesitated slightly when looking directly into her eyes. That. His voice was low and slow, carrying familiar caution. Will you be okay? Yeezer gently stroked Julieta's hair. Didn't you say you do not like parties and social gatherings? He looked directly into her eyes, his gaze not forcing but just a gentle reminder. You really do not need to force yourself. In that moment, Julieta's eyelashes fluttered slightly as if concealing the churning thoughts. This person, he always worries about me first. It is true that I do not want to go to those gatherings, I just want to live a peaceful life now. But, this time I have a very legitimate reason to go. Knowing them as the kind of nobles who always catch every rumor, they must also know that Yeezer once loved someone else. My role is to appear before them and ease their suspicions. By behaving as if Yeezer and I are a couple deeply in love. Although at this point, even without acting, I have to say that we are quite compatible, right? She declared emphatically with decisiveness but no less gentleness. So, I will go and show them clearly that we are a happy couple. Yeezer was silent for a moment, he murmured in his throat. A happy couple. Immediately after, Yeezer burst out laughing. Finally, he chose to compromise. Okay, I will entrust that to you then. After a long while, the room fell silent. Only to see Julieta tilting her head and sleeping soundly on the comfortable bed. The corners of her mouth involuntarily curved up. At the same time, Yeezer gently stroked Julieta's hair. He slowly sat down next to her. Yeezer lowered his voice. Milady, I also have a concern of my own. He considered each word, then finally spoke the truth in a low, serious voice. Actually, I have been receiving letters from Bertisha since we got married. The image of Bertisha immediately appeared in Yeezer's mind. He continued to add. She said that she understands why I did not attend the royal wedding, and she wants to meet you, suggesting we meet after a long time. Yeezer continued to speak, slowly but not evading. Thinking back, Bertisha was always a little different. From the first moment I saw her, I fell in love with her without understanding why, as if it was destiny. But she fell in love with the crown prince. On their wedding day, I felt so suffocated that I had to disguise myself and go to a bar. Right at this moment, Yeezer accidentally bumped into a table edge. The scene of that day appeared through his story. He bowed his head slightly. Sorry. Julieta unexpectedly grabbed Yeezer's arm tightly. Before the unusual action, he was a little confused. She lowered her head, her voice sounding broken. Excuse me, Sir Knight, did you just apologize? Yeezer was slightly confused but also answered. Yes, I apologized. Julieta continued quickly. If that is the case then. Then she laughed softly, a very light laugh. Have a drink with me. Before the unexpected proposal, he could not help but feel a little confused. What? Returning to reality, Yeezer looked at her with a gentle gaze. That is how we first met. It seems like I am the only one who still remembers that. He came a little closer. Every time I remember that day, I forget everything about her letters, as if they were never important. Yeezer lowered his voice, his eyes softening noticeably. It is all thanks to you. After accidentally meeting you at the bar, I heard the news that she was looking for a husband. And before I could realize it, my hand had acted automatically. To laugh at her, at that time I was not sure about my own feelings, but the problem emerged. A contract that lasts for 2 years. In that moment, a thought flashed through him. I can't tie her down for life based on mere curiosity. So, a contract marriage seemed like a reasonable choice. The silence stretched on, only the sound of the wind and a rapid heartbeat remained, then Yeezer finally said what he had kept in his heart for a long time. Milady. If I really fall in love with you. He smiled bitterly. When that moment comes, can I be by your side as a real husband? Right at this moment, Julieta unexpectedly grabbed Yeezer's hand. Seeing this, he stopped short for a moment. Milady. Yeezer worriedly looked towards Julieta. Don't tell me you are still awake. Seeing that she was still asleep, he dared to relax. Immediately after, Yeezer cracked a brilliant smile. On her side, Julieta was still tightly holding his hand. Yeezer almost whispered. Good night, my madam, I will ask again when you wake up. The scene shifted to the next morning. At this time, Julieta was blankly looking towards the postcards. Among countless invitations to tea parties, the steward had narrowed it down to just 2, one from the Yeckert Marquis family, and the other from the Steeman Marquis family. The Marchioness Yeckert, who sent an invitation with flowery decorations, is said to be close to the Perheim Duke family and is praised everywhere for her gentle personality. Of course, with her gentle personality, as a major influencer in this social scene, it is highly likely that she is just controlling her reputation well. In contrast, the Marchioness Steeman is rumored to be very fond of extravagance and quite impulsive, yet, the invitation she sent is particularly simple. She mumbled in her throat. The steward said they are having some kind of dispute. He answered quickly as if telling a story. He also suggested that maybe the Marchioness Yeckert is the one behind the rumors that were later spread about the Marchioness Steeman. Julieta quickly recalled. That is what he said. Julieta tentatively made some suggestions. If I have to persuade one of the two, then meeting the Marchioness Yeckert first is the best, because she is really a major influencer in the nobility. But... Then she suddenly cracked a smile, a very mischievous smile. Julieta's eyes were fixed on the words on the postcard. Now when seeing this name, I have no choice but to go to Steeman first. In a flash, it had moved to the next day. At this time, Julieta moved to a new place. Sarzina quickly came out. Duchess, you have arrived. She politely turned and greeted. Marchioness. She raised her arm and waved. Welcome, I am so glad you came. Sarzina turned in one direction. This way, the other ladies have already arrived. Sarzina Steeman, she only appeared briefly in the story so I did not recognize her name at first. The artist with the hands of God, the mysterious genius painter, Cortina, is none other than the Marchioness Steeman who is standing right in front of me here. The portrait painter for the royal family, she is not only close to the current emperor, Camilio, but also to the late emperor. I know her real identity thanks to reading the original novel, but because she does not like appearing in public, no one besides the late emperor and Camilio know that she is Cortina. Giulietta's eyes stopped at Sarzina, she thought to herself. Because she has protection from the royal family, there is no reason why I should not agree to this invitation. The relationship with her is much more valuable than those from the nobility with influence that can fade at any time. She suddenly called. Milady. Giulietta immediately reacted. Yes. Sarzina smiled lightly. We are here. She turned to look at her and reminded. Everyone is waiting for you. Katrina immediately reacted as soon as she saw Giulietta. Oh my, you are here, Countess Wayden, Katrina Wayden. Bettely also turned her head. Welcome, your tea will get cold soon. Countess Perioa, Bettely Perioa. Sarzina smiled leisurely. Everyone here is very excited to meet you. Katrina continued excitedly. Of course we want to, but Sina is especially excited. She chuckled. She rushed out to greet you as soon as she heard you arrived. Hearing this, Sarzina did not forget to expose. You two wanted to go too. On her side, Giulietta could not help but feel a little confused. I was strange when the Marchioness herself came out instead of sending a servant. She was slightly stunned. So she came all the way just for me. Sarzina smiled naturally, her eyes not hiding her goodwill. Of course. Her voice was gentle but certain, carrying rare sincerity. From the beginning I sent that invitation because I wanted to become your friend. Not letting Giulietta react any further, Sarzina hurriedly gestured. Now then, do not stand there, sit down. We are talking about a play Katrina really likes recently. Another lady spoke. Then, I told you, it is very good, you should go see it. She looked around. This is not what I expected. Someone made a suggestion. Let us go see it together next time. Giulietta smiled happily. Everyone is friendly. After a long while, the entire room fell silent. The group was still laughing and joking in the room. Soft laughter echoed around the tea table. So then, should we end it here and go on a spring outing next time? Giulietta stared at each face. I was not expecting much, but I had a really great time. They all seem to be nice people, I hope we can get closer. Someone unexpectedly made a suggestion. So, will you join us next time, Duchess Perheim? She was slightly stunned. I am welcome to come here again. Hearing this, the group was completely silent. Katrina and Pettily nodded certainly, their eyes not hesitating at all. Of course, definitely. Giulietta smiled lightly, a feeling of relief creeping into her heart. Then, I will definitely come. Right at that moment, a polite voice rang out from the door, breaking the peaceful atmosphere. Excuse me. The servant quickly announced, her voice clear but no less respectful. Duke Perheim has arrived to pick up the Duchess. Giulietta's heart skipped a beat, she stood up abruptly. The Duke is here. At the same time, the sound of footsteps rang out from outside. Yeezer entered the room, his tall figure standing out, his eyes calm but gentle. Forgive me for intruding, ladies. Giulietta approached in confusion. Why did you come all the way here? Yeezer shyly replied. I am sorry, I know it will cause a disruption, but I still wanted to come and take you home myself. One of them hurriedly reassured. Don't worry, Duke, we were also preparing to leave. He chuckled. Is that so? That is great then. She tilted her head and looked behind him. Duke, what are you holding behind your back? Yeezer frankly admitted. It is not anything special. Then he unexpectedly took out a bouquet of fresh flowers. Yeezer's eyes stopped at Giulietta with undisguised gentleness. I bought them because they reminded me of the beauty of your hair. His voice lowered, carrying sincerity that made her heart tremble slightly. Although you are even more beautiful than that, of course. Giulietta was slightly surprised and touched. Oh my, you have been very busy. When did you find the time to buy them? Yeezer raised his eyebrows slightly, his gaze carrying a little anxiety. Don't you like them? She held the gift in her arms, as if holding a part of his heart, her voice softening naturally. Of course not. Giulietta exclaimed with excitement. I am very happy, thank you. An exclamation rang out from behind. Katrina smiled. Oh my, this couple is so cute. Petali could not help but marvel. That is right, this scene is so heartwarming. She did not forget to ask tentatively. What do you think, Sina? Sarzina thought to herself. I sent the invitation because I thought I could find some inspiration. By meeting the two romantic figures everyone is talking about, but he never imagined that they could be so young and cute, she smiled kindly. They really are a beautiful couple, so much so that I want to pick up my brush and record this stirring feeling immediately. At the magnificent palace, Julieta carried a bouquet of flowers inside. The nanny saw her and smiled to greet. Welcome, madam. She immediately made a suggestion. Amber, can you put this bouquet in a beautiful vase in my bedroom? The Duke gave it. I want to put it in a place where I can see it. She received the bouquet and replied. Yes, madam, I will put it in our Julieta laughed softly and thanked. Thank you, I appreciate it. In her heart, she secretly marveled. It is really fun, but I feel quite tired after the first outing in a long time. Suddenly the nanny spoke. Excuse me, madam. She replied. Yes. She closed her eyes, her voice a little sad. You often speak as if you are about to leave, but you are the reason the Duke has been able to smile like this recently. Hearing this, Julieta was confused. Amber, She gently comforted her. To me, you are no longer someone who will leave, but the true madam of this house. The nanny looked directly at her, her voice full of seriousness. That is why, as the background of the Duke's mansion, I feel I need to show you this. As soon as she finished speaking, she handed Julieta some letters. She could not help but be surprised when she saw the letters in her hand. The nanny then explained. They are the letters from the Queen, Bertisha Hermine. Julieta asked with a stern face. She is the one the Duke used to love, right? She was very surprised to hear her ask. You already knew, madam, she replied a little angrily. Just a guess. The nanny then explained. The Duke never sent a reply to these letters. She recounted. He always just read the letters in sadness, suffering terribly each time. The nanny looked at her sincerely. I have worked in the Duke's house since he was just a boy, so I had to watch him endure throughout the time. She continued to speak. Can smile again. The nanny clenched the letters in her hand with determination. I decided I can't just stand by and watch him endure anymore. Julieta fell into contemplation hearing her words. I understand, while Yeezer was suffering because of love. She closed her eyes slightly and thought. Those who care about him could not do anything but watch, sharing his pain. The nanny then suggested. If I may be so bold, can I venture to ask you for this favor, madam? She grabbed Julieta's hand tightly. Please help him end the old love that has caused him too much pain. The nanny earnestly pleaded. I beg you. She looked at her with difficulty. Amber. Julieta's eyes were full of sadness as she looked at her. After a long while, she spoke. Thank you for telling me, Amber. Julieta gently grasped her hand. She then agreed to the nanny's proposal. I will seriously talk to Yeezer about this. The bouquet that Julieta brought back had been placed in the bedroom by the nanny as requested by her. Yeezer walked in and happily called her name. Julieta. Hearing the noise, she turned around. Yeezer, you are back. He walked over and gently asked. What are you doing, my madam? Julieta smiled and replied. The breeze feels so fresh, so I opened the window to enjoy it. She pointed to the bouquet in the vase and said happily. Look, I put the bouquet you gave me in that vase. Yeezer smiled gently and replied. I see, it looks very beautiful. Suddenly the two fell silent. Julieta closed her eyes and silently thought about how to open the conversation with him. Those letters, how should I start? He turned to her slightly worried when he saw her expression. Yeezer could not help but worry in his heart. My wife, she does not look very happy. Is there something bothering her? He lightly clenched his hand into a fist. Am I being selfish in hoping that she will confide in me? Suddenly Julieta spoke shyly, breaking the silence. Yeezer, can I ask you just one thing? He immediately replied. Of course, you can. She clasped her hands together and said. Today, Amber asked me for an important favor. She asked me to help you overcome your old love. Yeezer was stunned hearing her say that. Julieta turned her eyes elsewhere and continued. I believe that this is a matter that needs your consent, so I just told her that I would talk to you about it. He then apologized to her. I am sorry, madam, I should not have let you be troubled by such problems. Yeezer's voice was full of sincerity. From now on I will be more careful. She smiled and replied. Yeezer, wait, look at me, I did not mean that. Yeezer frowned slightly in worry and asked. Then, what do you mean? Julieta spoke and suggested, I want to ask for your permission, to see if it is okay if I interfere in your private life. She reached out and stroked her hair and said, I want to respect your wishes. He fell into contemplation for a moment after hearing her suggestion. Yeezer looked at her gently. Madam. He then agreed to Julieta's proposal. If it is you, Julieta, you can interfere in anything you want. Seeing him agree, she smiled happily. Suddenly Julieta changed her expression and spoke seriously. If that is the case then, Yeezer, I have a question. She held out the letters. How do you feel, when she continues to send these letters like this? Yeezer looked at the letters in her hand and was surprised. You were also shown the letters. He lowered his face, his voice sad. Actually, it is very painful, sometimes, I even hate it, that is why I intentionally never reply. Julieta held the letters up and lowered her voice. Good, then it is decided. She looked at him gently and suggested. Let us sort them out together, one by one, okay. Outside the palace, the sun shone down. Julieta tiredly sat down on the chair. Phew, so tired. As soon as the sun rose, the mission to give up Yeezer's old love began. Because Yeezer and Bertisha had been together for a very long time, the Perheim mansion was also full of their memories. After several discussions, Yeezer and I decided to start by removing the objects that still bore Bertisha's mark, one by one. There were a lot of such things, so this took a lot of effort, but I believe it will help. Yeezer walked in from outside. Madam, you are here. Julieta was surprised to see him. Oh, Yeezer. She smiled gently. We are almost done clearing things out, right? I feel we have thrown away quite a few things. He smiled and replied. That is right, but there is something I want to show you. Julieta was surprised when she saw the box in his hand. That is. She was shocked when she saw it. A lunchbox. Her voice echoed throughout the hallway. So? Julieta asked in surprise. You mean you used to prepare lunch for that person before, in this lunchbox? Yeezer smiled and replied. I found this while cleaning up. She then praised. You are good at cooking too. In her heart, she was a little jealous. A lunch made by Yeezel, I am a little jealous of that. Suddenly Julieta regained her senses and reached out to rub her face. Wait, jealous, what am I saying? He spoke in confusion. Julieta. He smiled gently and suggested. If you do not mind, can I prepare lunch for you to eat sometimes? Julieta was very surprised when she heard his suggestion. Yeezer smiled and suggested. And, would you like to take that lunch to a picnic with me? Julieta smiled happily hearing his suggestion. She laughed and agreed. Of course, I would love to. He laughed along. That is great. The next day, in the palace. A servant spoke. What about this, madam? Another servant interjected. No, this one suits you more. Julieta was slightly stunned looking at the enthusiastic servants. Wait, everyone. She was a little confused. This is a little. Julieta shyly asked. A little too much, right? The servants surrounding her replied. Not at all, this is the first time you are going out with him since coming to the Duke's residence. A servant said happily. This is your first date after a while, madam, you have to be very beautiful. She blushed and repeated. A date. Julieta blushed and suggested. Then, let us choose this one. The servants happily replied. Yes, madam. On this side, Yeezer was carefully preparing food. He looked happily at the food box. Done, completed. Yeezer was extremely happy in his heart. I actually planned the menu based on her preferences and the chef's suggestions, I hope she will like it. He looked towards the door. I wonder if she is finished preparing. He thought to himself. I should change clothes and leave to pick her up. After Yeezer changed clothes, he went to the front of her room. He was stunned when he saw her. Yeezer called gently. Madam. Julieta happily walked in front of him. Yeezer, you have arrived. He looked at her in confusion. Yes, madam, that dress, it is so. She gently recounted. Everyone put their all into dressing me, saying it has been a long time since the last time we went out together so. Julieta reached out and stroked her hair and asked. What do you think? Yeezer blushed and gazed at her. He then praised. You look so beautiful. Outside the park, the sunlight shone on the lake creating shimmering streaks. The two of them finished eating the food and sat down on the grass. Yeezer smiled and said. It feels strange to see you eat the food I made. Julieta could not help but marvel. Yeezer, this is absolutely delicious, how are you so good at cooking? She smiled to herself. I have finished it all in the blink of an eye, I want to eat more. Yeezer said hesitantly. Madam, because we have finished lunch. Would you like to take a walk a little more before going back? Julieta widened her eyes and asked him. To another place. At a rustic house. Julieta looked around with an interested expression. Oh, this is. Yeezer and Julieta in disguise. Before coming here, Yeezer had asked her for her opinion. I heard there is a festival in a nearby village, would you like to go? Julieta pondered. He said that. It sounded fun, so I agreed immediately. She drank a small bottle of water then frowned and complained. This is so bad. She thought to herself. I was too excited about the suggestion to play secretly with just the two of us. So I changed clothes and even drank the disguise potion that Yeezer gave me. Yeezer smiled gently. It is not very tasty, but it will change the color of your hair and eyes for about half a day. Remembering, Julieta placed her hand on her chest and was constantly moved. This is even. She shyly thought. More fun than I imagined. Yeezer looked at her excited face and approached to ask. Do you like it, Lieta? Julieta answered, her face not hiding her joy. Yes, this is the first time I have really seen a place like this, so I was excited. Suddenly she stopped. She asked Yeezer. Yeezer, did you just call me Lieta? Yeezer instantly turned red. Because we are disguised, I can't call you by your full name in public, so I tried to shorten it. His eyes evaded, his expression embarrassed. Do you not like it? Julieta's cheeks were also flushed pink, she was stunned then thought. There is no way I would not like it. She bit her lip and closed her eyes tightly, pretending to restrain herself. Who can refuse when he makes that face and says that? Thinking this, Julieta cleared her throat, approached Yeezer, and coaxed. Ahem, I am just a little shy with the nickname, it is not that I do not like it. Yeezer's tone was relieved. Is that so? That is great. He showed a kind smile, his tone soft. Then, I will call you that all day today so you can get used to it, Lieta. Julieta said nothing, she just widened her eyes and looked at him shyly. She rubbed her chin and replied. Okay. I understand. Saying this, Julieta also called Yeezer's name intimately causing him to freeze. Yaz. He rubbed his neck, both faces were still burning red. So, this is what it feels like. Julieta looked at him with a blank expression, then she laughed gleefully. She secretly praised. So cute. She happily chatted with Yeezer. Now you can't take it back just because you are shy. You are the one who suggested it, Yaz. Yeezer laughed it off, he replied. Yes, I understand, do not worry, Lieta. The sky at this time was high and blue, each ray of sunshine made the scene even more brilliant. Julieta was eating some candied hawthorns at this time, she frowned and criticized. Too sweet. She turned to ask Yeezer with a resigned expression. Oh, this is really sweet, do you like it? It is so sweet it hurts my teeth. Yeezer nodded and agreed with her words. I have eaten it a few times before. The two sat down on a chair by the side of the road. Julieta said with a surprised tone. Oh, really, was it when you went to inspect? How surprising, you do not seem like the type to eat this at all. Yeezer looked at her chattering happily. Is that so? Julieta's tone was carefree, making others feel comfortable. But, seeing another side of you is also good. I will probably get used to it if we go together often, huh? Yeezer gently replied. I will get used to it. The two chatted lively, the atmosphere also gradually became natural. Then we have to hang out a lot until we get used to it, then, let us go on a food tour next time. A food tour, a food tour is like going around trying many different local specialties. Julieta also laughed non-stop because of this. A while later, after dealing with 4 candied hawthorns, she stood up cheering. Finally finished. Her voice was a little surprised. There are a lot of kinds of festival food, huh? Yeezer's tone was adoring. Everything is delicious, right? Julieta's tone was hesitant. Yes, it is so delicious. Yeezer proposed an idea. Now that we have eaten everything, should we go play something else? Hearing this, Julietta's face also shone with curiosity. Something else? She stood up, her tone slow. Like. Suddenly a sound rang out interrupting her words. Julietta stopped in confusion. As soon as the sound rang out, Yeezer also stood up, his words were vague. It seems like it is starting. Julietta wondered. What song is that? He explained gently. Every festival needs music and dance. Finishing speaking, he reached out to Julietta. His style was polite but close, adoring. Lietta, can you dance this dance with me? Julietta was stunned, her gaze also becoming shy. She spoke shyly. Dance, that is, I might step on your feet. Yeezer's gentle voice reassured her. It is okay, I will lead you. Julietta still insisted on refusing. No, really, I might step on you. Yeezer just smiled, he replied very subtly. I am good at dodging. Hearing that, Julietta pondered. Then. Thinking for a while, Julietta placed her hand on Yeezer's hand. Please help me. The atmosphere at this time became even more bustling and lively because of the music ringing out. Julietta followed Yeezer's steps and went out to dance. The wind blew her hair up, looking very beautiful. Both of them stood facing each other without saying a word, but their eyes were full of affection. Julietta looked at the man who was dancing with her with an expression that was both shy and radiant. Yeezer also smiled at her gently. He slowly did a spinning motion with Julietta, the corners of his mouth still curving up. After finishing the dance, Yeezer spoke praising Julietta. Contrary to what you were worried about, you danced quite well. Julietta smiled brightly. Isn't it just that your husband dances well, and I do not? Seeing this, Yeezer turned red, he replied shyly. I just did not want you to see my clumsy side. Seeing that expression of his, she was slightly stunned, then burst out laughing. Julietta thought, perhaps it is because the scenery has changed, but somehow, Yeezer looks more dangerous than usual. She said sincerely, Yeezer, you are really very interesting. Saying this, Julietta's expression also became gentle. Always so gentle. She widened her eyes looking at the man. And always knowing how to care. Seeing her sincerity, Yeezer was surprised. Madam. He covered his mouth slightly and replied shyly. You are also very beautiful. Suddenly he shouted. Wait, madam. Julietta closed her eyes tightly, her expression frightened. Yeezer used his hand to shield her in front. Instantly the two closed the distance. Julietta opened her eyes and looked at him. The atmosphere became strangely quiet. She and he did not say a word, just trembled their shoulders and chuckled. Julietta's face brightened again, she said. I did not expect that fountain to spray so strongly, no wonder no one dares to get close to it. Yeezer replied to her. That is right, I only found out now. Her tone was slightly surprised, on her lips was still a radiant smile. This is the first time I have been splashed by a fountain. Julietta brushed her hair and marveled. Really, every time I am outside, Yeezer, everything becomes special and new. She misspoke and stopped to explain. Thinking about it, I called you by the wrong name. It is Yaz, right? Yeezer's voice was steady, he reassured her. You do not need to call me Yaz anymore. Hearing that, Julietta was surprised. What? Suddenly she stared at his face then shouted. Julietta almost screamed. Yeezer, your hair and eyes. Yeezer was not surprised, he just reminded her calmly. You have also returned to your original hair and eye color, madam. Julietta hurriedly reached out to touch her face, she was confused. What, wait, are we okay? Yeezer smiled warmly. Who knows? He rubbed his chin, his appearance extremely wise. As long as this does not make the news, it will be fine. The people around them recognized them and began to discuss in a flurry. Wait, is not that the Duke, and next to him, is not that the Duchess? The crowd became bustling. They are going out together. Seeing the situation was not good, Julietta cried out. Oh, really, quick, run. At a mansion. Camilio pondered looking at the latest newspaper in his hand. Breaking news, the Duke and Duchess Purim's secret date. The information in the newspaper appeared. After their sudden marriage announcement, many people speculated whether there was any political agreement between the two families. But today, those rumors have been proven wrong. This couple was seen on a romantic date at the fountain in the square. Seeing this, Camilio wrung his head and scratched his ears. The press of the empire now reports on the private lives of the people too. His expression was not very pleasant, criticizing the newspaper. The press of the empire now even publishes private matters. If Yeezer really hated this, he would have blocked it from the start. The fact that it spread so quickly means that he knows and deliberately let it happen. Saying this, he laughed it off. No, or is it, he wants to show off his wife? Camilio looked at Bertisha, his tone weary. It seems like we were worrying unnecessarily. Bertisha's expression was not happy, she frowned. Really? She slowly spoke and asked. When will you fulfill your promise? Camilio's tone was relaxed. Promise. Bertisha's tone immediately rose, carrying a sense of blame. You once said you would bring Yeezer back, even if you had to, and also Miss Orbitian. She inquired. Have you forgotten? Camilio remembered hearing that. He hurriedly denied. Of course not, I have never forgotten. He approached Bertisha, his tone soft as if coaxing. How can I forget your request? You know, to me, you are the most important person. So why have not you fulfilled your promise? Camilio put his arm around Bertisha's shoulder and advised. But you saw today's newspaper, even though we worried about everything, it seems like Yeezer has married a good wife. Camilio sat next to her, gently comforting. He is avoiding us, probably just because he needs more time. As friends, we should wait for him. Bertisha said nothing, she resentfully bit her lip. A moment later, she turned to show a fake smile to Camilio. You are right, sorry Camilio. Bertisha said worriedly. I thought you forgot what I asked, thought you did not value it, so I was angry for no reason. Camilio comforted her by her side saying. It is okay, I understand. Then he also pulled her into his arms to comfort her, only remember, the things you ask me are always important. Sitting in his arms she felt at ease and said. Okay. Afterwards, Bertisha also told herself. I won't forget. On the other side, Julieta Obertian found finally arrived. Standing in front of this large mansion, she was slightly stunned and asked. The Yekert Marquis's mansion. Julieta Obertian nervously comforted herself. I thought I had prepared myself mentally, but after hearing too many rumors, I naturally feel worried. But she was a little confused when looking around thinking. And all the attendants too, why does everyone have such a heavy face? As Julieta Obertian walked, she felt awkward. What is this atmosphere? Then someone came up and reported. Sir, I will lead you to the tea party. Hearing these words, she suddenly remembered. Ah, that is right. Looking at this gloomy mansion, Julieta Obertian did not want to at all. Now I have to worry about myself first, I am about to step straight into the tiger's den. As soon as she entered, the servant announced. The Duchess Perheim has arrived. She also shyly introduced herself. Hello, I am Julieta Perheim. Seeing her arrive, the other person praised. Oh my, Duchess Perheim, I did not expect to meet such a discreet person today. The Marchioness Yekert is truly talented. The other person also continued, making the person in the middle extremely embarrassed. That is right, think about it, a party with so many distinguished guests like this. I know there will be flattery, but the level of flattery this Marchioness is showing is a bit too much. Julieta Obertian just stood there clenching her hands thinking. The Marchioness Perheim and also the Queen. Right at that moment, she saw a person in front of her and thought. The Queen, what are they saying? Bertisha happily greeted again. Duchess Perheim, greetings. She was a bit stunned hearing this greeting. Standing for a while, Julieta Obertian finally remembered and bowed to greet. Eternal glory to the Empire. Then because she was too worried, she stammered her greeting. This humble servant greets your majesty. Looking at the person in front of her, Julieta Obertian admired and thought. Oh my, Yeezer, he used to love such a beauty, no, why is she also here, right at that moment? Bertisha also exclaimed. Perhaps I should send my thanks to the Marchioness Yekert. Thereupon, she feigned contrition and said, perhaps I should extend my gratitude to Lady Yekert. Bertisha also explained again. I hurriedly requested to attend today's party just to have the honor of meeting the Duchess. After hearing, Julieta Obertian was completely shocked and asked. Your Majesty, you came to this party, just to meet me, she also confirmed like that. That is right, I wanted to meet you. At that time, she also turned to ask with suspicion. Is there any particular reason? Bertisha said cryptically. Well, you are the wife of my best friend. Not finished there, she also repeated. I am just curious about my friend's wife. Seeing this, Bertisha again showed a pitiful expression saying. I guess this makes you feel awkward, right? Julieta Obertian replied a little worriedly. No, if you say so. Then she tried to salvage. This humble servant does not feel awkward at all, Your Majesty, it is my honor to meet you. Hearing this, Bertisha happily smiled and said. Is that so? That is a relief. At that time, the servant then pointed. Duchess, please sit next to me here. She also went forward to greet and was welcomed by everyone. Please, it is a pleasure to meet you. As soon as she sat down, Julieta Obertion was a little embarrassed. In front of her was the person, Marchioness Yekert. She was drinking tea while using her eyes to follow her. Seeing this, Julieta Obertion began to speak first. I apologize for being late in greeting, thank you for inviting me. Unexpectedly, Yekert frankly said that, to be honest, I heard you went to another place first, so I did not expect you to come. The thing she was most impressed with was. But seeing that you still came all the way here to greet me, really made me much happier. Having heard that, she also understood that, so she already knew, that I had visited the tea party of the Marchioness Steeman first, who was having a conflict with her. Looking at the woman in front of her, Julieta Obertion had a different thought when meeting. And actually, all my worries were really unnecessary, the Marchioness is not as scary as the rumors said. To be honest, until now I had even forgotten she existed. Suddenly she felt something else. The bigger problem is. The woman Bertisha next to her, this person. The thing Julieta Obertion was most uncomfortable with was wondering. Why does she keep staring at me? Suddenly she spoke first. Duchess, you are really very different from me. Hearing that, she was startled and turned back to ask. Is that so? Bertisha quickly confirmed. That is right, look. Immediately after, she also mentioned every point on her body. The fiery red hair, the bright blue eyes, and also your slightly slanted eyes. Then Bertisha commented slightly. From head to toe, you are completely different from me. After that, she also wanted to say something, I wonder if it is because of that. Julieta Obertion interrupted. Excuse me. Seeing this, she immediately smiled. Unexpectedly, Bertisha changed her expression and said. The reason Duke Perheim is attracted to you. After hearing these words, she immediately froze. She did not stop but said again. The reason that Duke Perheim is so attracted to you. The more she heard, the more confused Julieta Obertion thought. What is she implying? Looking at the woman in front of her, she understood and thought. Doesn't sound like a compliment at all. But Julieta Obertion thought differently again. Or am I just imagining things? She clenched her hands again thinking. But more importantly, the problem is. Remembering those words, Julieta Obertion bit her lip and worriedly endured. He said he would come right after today's tea party ends, and also Yeezer will come to pick me up. I will come to pick you up. At that time, Bertisha noticed and spoke. Duchess, are you alright? Your complexion does not look too good. Seeing this, she woke up and replied. No, I am fine, really. Unexpectedly, she gave an invitation. If you really do not feel well, would you like to take a walk with me? Standing before this, Julieta Obertion was a little hesitant. Unexpectedly, more people came forward and added words. That is right, madam, do not worry about us, let us take a walk with the queen. That is right, breathing in the fresh air will definitely help. Seeing this, she had to go along. Then I excused myself. But in her heart she had a different thought. I do not want to go. Later when this door was opened. The two just went along together alone without anyone saying anything. Looking at everything around, Julieta Obertion thought with some difficulty. She said we are going to take a walk, so why did she bring me through another room? The back in front of her made her think even more. This is making me worried. Right at that moment, Bertisha spoke and asked. You must be wondering why I brought you here instead of going outside. Right. After hearing, she replied. Oh, not really. It is all right. Suddenly she said cryptically. Actually, I have something I want to ask you about Yeezer. Bertisha directly mentioned that. Recently, Yeezer has been keeping a distance from me and Camilio for no reason at all. Then she pretended to smile and asked. I am wondering if you know the reason. After hearing, Julieta Obertion froze and asked. What is she implying, but still politely replied. Perhaps he is keeping a distance because he is married now. Right, you also know that bad rumors will appear when a man and a woman are too close to each other. Seeing this, Julieta Obertion shockingly asked. I am becoming more and more convinced that Bertisha wants to make things difficult for me. Bertisha continued to speak. I also wondered, but if that is the case, then why did he push Camilio away too? She also remembered that. That is right, Camillo, is not he the male lead in the original novel? Seeing that she did not say anything, she still asked shamelessly. Our user has never behaved like this, it is just very strange. More importantly, Bertisha also mentioned something else. Is his marriage the reason? Seeing this, Julieta Obertion also understood. She is using Yeezer as an excuse. The thing she was most suspicious of. Could it be that Bertisha has really loved Yeezer? Then she also had to reply. Actually, I do not really know. After answering, she also understood. That is the reason why she is trying to make things difficult for me now. But Julieta Obertion felt something was wrong. No, wait. If she likes Yeezer that much, then why did she marry Camillo? Unexpectedly, Bertisha spoke shamelessly. Anyway, Duchess, please have a private conversation with Yeezer. She also mentioned other people. Camillo will be quite disappointed if he does not attend the party. More importantly. Right at this moment, she spoke. Ah, Your Majesty. Julieta Obertion directly said straightforwardly. I have been thinking about this for a long time, but you have never asked how the Duke is living. And she also said sternly, pointing out. If you two are really that close, then is not that the first thing you should say? Hearing these words, Bertisha was a little stunned. Unexpectedly, she pretended to be pitiful and said. It is because I and Yeezer have had a long relationship with each other. Bertisha also emphasized the comparison. I definitely know what he is doing now, even more than you, Duchess. Hearing these words, she was angry but still had to smile. Then Julieta Obertion wondered again. Is she mocking me? But replied. No. She directly denied. You completely do not understand him at all, Your Majesty. After that, Julieta Obertion began to recount. When he is by my side. Remembering that smiling appearance, she was even more sure. I know what my husband is really like. Bertisha did not accept it and said. Impossible. And she also affirmed that. I also know that Yeezer secretly supports others without anyone knowing. Hearing that, Julieta Obertion then said. About that matter. Causing Bertisha to ask confused. What? And she said straightforwardly that. The Duke is a person who always shines when moving forward, not hiding himself. Though to Julieta Obertion there was a bit, he has a bad habit of always shouldering everything alone, but the most difficult thing for her was. When that happens, if I push him, then he will eventually tell me the truth. Remembering the actions that were reserved for Julieta Obertion. When we take a walk together, he steps in sync with me and always puts me first. So delicate that she was moved by every gesture. When my heel broke, then he knelt down to see if I was okay. Concluding, Julieta Obertion also smiled and said. And finally, he said that it is not okay and carried me, he is too protective. Then she also had a request. Your Majesty, I also have a request to make to you. What Julieta Obertion wanted was. Please stop sending letters to my husband, it makes him uncomfortable. Hearing everything, she again smiled and said. I did not realize Yeezer felt that way. Bertisha approached and said. Thank you for telling me. She also felt a little awkward and said. It is all right. I am sorry for having to convey my husband's feelings in this way. And Julieta Obertion also promised that. I will try my best to persuade my husband so that we can attend the reception together as a couple, so please do not worry. Seeing this, Bertisha also said. Thank you, I will wait. After that, she also excused herself. Then, Your Majesty, I am afraid I am not feeling very well, so I excuse myself to leave first. And she also accepted and said. Of course, you do not look very well, so please go back and rest, I will talk to the Marchioness Yekert myself. Before leaving, Julieta Obertion smiled and said. Thank you for your understanding. She also breathed a sigh of relief having handled the matter. At this time, outside this castle. As soon as she got outside, Julieta Obertion finally felt less tense thinking. Phew, finally got out of that place. But she also thought worriedly. I left a little too early, I wonder if Yeezer has arrived yet. Suddenly she saw the servant next to her speak. The servant said worriedly and trembling. The Queen, starting from now, she definitely made a promise, which made Julieta Obertion worry. Will torment you, Duchess. Julieta was surprised and asked back Rofi. What did you just say? She recounted sweating. Your Majesty does not like to refuse invitations, so she feels that attending and then leaving the party halfway is an irresponsible action. Julieta felt a little confused. So, to the Duchess, she will definitely. Julieta interrupted Rofi as she was hesitating. Why are you telling me this? Rofi placed both hands on her chest and explained. Because I thought that I could speak up for you before the Duchess. I used to occasionally help other young ladies like that. She blushed slightly and hesitated. Of course, this may just be a meddlesome action with some arrogance from a low servant, but... Her words touched Julieta. I just do not want to see a sad look appear on anyone's face. She repeated Rofi's words. Someone's sad face. She suddenly asked about something else. Speaking of which, have you ever thought about changing jobs? Rofi was surprised. What did you say? Julieta smiled kindly. I am thinking that a person who puts others before themselves even though they will have to bear the punishment afterwards, is exactly the type of talent that the duchy needs. Rofi was stunned and dazed when she heard her say that. Then she bowed low before Julieta with gratitude. Thank you, Duchess, I will definitely serve you to the end of my life. Julieta laughed and waved her hands continuously. There, I am very grateful. By the way, I do not know your name yet, can you tell me? Of course, madam, my name is Rofi. Suddenly Yeezer walked over and called. Madam. She was surprised when someone suddenly called her. Julieta turned her face to look at the person who had just called her. As soon as she saw him, she called. Yeezer. Yeezer walked closer to her. Madam, why did you come out so early? She happily walked to his side. Yeezer, why did you also come to pick me up so early? Yeezer scratched his face embarrassedly. I could only think about you, and so I accidentally arrived here earlier than expected. She reached out and took his hand. You came at just the right time. Yeezer was taken by surprise by her. Miss Julieta, why did you suddenly take my hand like this? Before leaving with him, Julieta turned to Rofi. Thank you, Rofi, I will send someone to your place later, so please be patient for a bit. Then she turned and pulled Yeezer along with her in Rofi's admiring gaze. Now then, let us go, we have other things to do. Yeezer kept asking. Madam, what is going on? Only after a few seconds, Rofi regained her senses, her eyes shining and exclaiming. Thank you, Duchess. Julieta turned back and smiled brightly, waving goodbye to her. Then she also walked along with Yeezer side by side. In another place, Bertish's beautiful face was cold and expressionless. She turned away, her eyes full of sadness. So Yeezer is no longer comfortable when being with me anymore. Then suddenly she showed a cold smile. She placed her hand on the table and gently stroked. Not a real lover, also not a wife, having no status at all. If you wanted to let someone interfere in our relationship at this time, then you should have left earlier. Her eyes became deep. You should have hidden those feelings until the end of your life, only then could the three of us always be together. You are such an idiot, Yeezer. In Bertish's eyes shone a glimmer of hope. Anyway, I know that sooner or later you will come back to me. Outside, Julieta instructed Yeezer before he went inside. Don't be too late, Yeezer. Sunset was gradually falling and the sky was dyed a bright, fiery red. Yeezer turned his back and walked towards the door. He turned back to look at Julieta a few more times. He did not go inside but turned back to her side. Madam, could it be that you are not feeling well? She sat by the bed and looked up at him. No, I am still okay. Yeezer sat down level with her. That is good then. Julieta hesitated for a moment and then decided to tell him. Actually, the queen visited today. Yeezer's expression showed slight worry. Did something important happen? Julieta tested the waters before speaking. Perhaps you will be angry because of this. I asked her to stop sending you letters. Julieta lowered her face to hide her remorse. And I know that I was also a bit too much when doing that without your consent. I told her not to worry anymore. Because we will attend the official banquet together as husband and wife. Yeezer's hand that was placed on the bed suddenly tensed up when hearing that. As husband and wife. She looked up at him with a repentant expression. Yes, I am sorry for speaking so presumptuously like that. I should have seen what you really wanted before interfering in your life like that. But contrary to her thoughts, Yeezer was not upset but even laughed, which surprised her. Yeezer. He regained his composure and said, I apologize for laughing, madam. You seemed surprised, wondering why I laughed. He hesitated. I do not know either, it just happened spontaneously. He glanced at her, his face slightly flushed. For some reason, I felt very happy hearing you call me husband to other people. Julieta's eyes widened in surprise, and her cheeks also flushed slightly. Why are you suddenly saying such sweet things? You have been my husband for a while now, Yeezer. That is right, you are absolutely right, madam. He suddenly placed his hand on hers. However, madam, you do not need to apologize to me for what you said today. Yeezer looked at her with a hint of regret. If only I had responded to her letters directly instead of ignoring them, then you would not have had to endure that discomfort. Julieta was surprised to hear him say this. So, this is my fault, that I caused you inconvenience. She shook her head. That is not it at all. Yeezer did not quite understand her. She smiled brightly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. We are married, are not we? Things like this should not affect us. Yeezer was taken aback for a few seconds when he heard her say that. Then he narrowed his eyes and smiled. His hand, still resting on hers, tightened slightly. You are right, madam. Julieta gasped in surprise. Oh my, it is already that fast. She put her hand to her lips, thinking. I thought it would take at least 2 weeks. Lady Yeckert is really nosy. The butler, standing opposite her, spoke up. Were you expecting this, madam? She squinted and smiled. I suddenly felt unwell and left the party early. It is a bit complicated to explain, she thought to herself. She made sure to clarify things. Regardless, can you tell me exactly what the rumors are about? The butler explained clearly. The rumor is that madam is having an affair with a commoner. It is beneath madam's station, and madam not only is not ashamed, but even seems proud of it. Julieta was a little taken aback, resting her chin on her hand. Ah, that is the kind of rumor that would horrify the old-fashioned nobles. The butler was slightly worried. Madam, are you all right? She nodded as if nothing were wrong. I am fine. I do not really care about rumors. She lowered her head and sighed. However, if it starts to harm the duchy, I can't just stand by and watch. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door at this moment, surprising Julieta. Who is it? She called out. Come in. The door slowly opened. Rofi entered, her face covered in bandages to hide her injuries. Madam, I am very grateful to you for hiring me. Julieta saw her and happily stood up. Rofi, you are here. Today's your first day, is not it? Rofi walked over and stood next to the butler. Yes, madam. At this moment, Julieta saw her face clearly, and was stunned. Wait, Rofi. Oh my gosh, what is on your face? Rofi forced a smile. Oh. Is it that obvious? Julieta asked anxiously, her voice unconsciously louder. Of course it is, how did you get so injured? Julieta slammed her hand on the table angrily. Rofi, do not tell me that. Lady Yeckert hit you, did not she? Rofi lowered her head, surprised that she noticed. Yes, that is right. Lady Yeckert often does that to servants she does not like. And it was her day off too. Julieta silently blamed herself. But I was so naive. I thought I had picked the right time to resign, but it just so happened she was in a bad mood. Julieta felt a pang of sympathy for Rofi. I have heard so many rumors about her. How could I think Lady Yeckert would let Rofi go so easily? She immediately gave an order to the butler. Butler, take Rofi to rest for the whole day. The butler bowed his head in acknowledgement. Yes, madam. Julieta stood silently, watching the butler lead Rofi away. Only after everyone had left did she lower her face, overwhelmed with guilt. Last time, I was so focused on Bertisha that I did not pay attention to her. She picked up her pen and began to write. I can't let this continue. Before I married Yeezer, when I was still living in seclusion at the Earl's estate, I had started a small business. One day, at the usually quiet estate, a very strange salesperson appeared. Polan, sweating profusely, tried to persuade, I am telling you, this product is guaranteed to be a success, but the young man brushed her off. Enough, please leave. She still tried to say a few more words. Okay, I am leaving, but please invest a little bit, please, just 1 drop, and the fur will be healthy and long. This business is guaranteed to be a huge hit. Julieta overheard the conversation and was intrigued. Fur. She thought carefully and decided to approach them. I will invest in this business. Both of them were surprised and turned to look at her. She folded her arms across her chest and smiled brightly. She also raised her hand and added, with one condition, that you are willing to change the direction of the business. I suggested to her that the product, which only needed 1 drop to make fur long and healthy, should be targeted at a different market. That is, baldness. Polan found her suggestion a bit strange, and was hesitant at first. After that, she happily called, Miss, but after following my advice and the business becoming a resounding success, her attitude changed. Because no matter the era, baldness is a universal worry, that business was sure to be a success. The two of them successfully joined hands and developed the business together. That was the beginning of my relationship with Palan, the director of one of the largest trading houses in the empire. Julieta had finished writing a letter. And now, it is time for me to ask her for a favor. Her handwriting was clear on the paper. Palan, I need your help. Are you free? Julieta quickly received a reply from Palan. The butler brought it in and reported, Madam, there is a letter for you. She reached out and took it. Thank you. She opened the letter and read, Hello, Miss. Oh, that is right, you are the Duchess now, are not you? I read the newspapers. I never thought you would appear in the imperial newspapers as a wife who loves her husband. Julieta laughed when she read this. She murmured to herself, I did not expect it either. Then she read on. Anyway, I have handled everything you asked for. All business relationships with the Yeckert family have been cut off. I have also spread the word to other families they cooperate with, and it seems that it has caused significant damage. It won't bankrupt the family, but the Yeckert's reputation will certainly not be what it once was. This means they won't be able to cause you any more trouble. Julieta smiled when she received the results she wanted. They were not really giving me much trouble, but I am still grateful. She put the letter down. Anyway. The weather outside is incredibly beautiful today. With this settled, I can finally go on a spring picnic without any worries. Julieta took Yeezer's hand. The two of them, dressed in splendid attire, entered. Excuse us, we have arrived. Sarsina's husband turned around. You two are here, Sarzina smiled brightly. I felt this last time too, the Duke and Duchess of Perheim are really pleasant. Petali turned to her husband. We used to be like that too, did not we, darling? He blushed and lowered his head, whispering, Ahem, let us save that for when we get home, Barry. Katrina raised her teacup. Earl Waden, do not you have anything to say? Eric laughed, covering his mouth. I have a name, why are you being so formal, Katrin? Katrina turned to greet Julieta and Yeezer. The road from the capital to here is so long, you must have traveled for a long time. Aren't you tired? Katrin was so worried that something might have happened to you and the Duke, Julieta. Julieta was a little stunned. She blushed slightly, unconsciously stammering. You called me Julieta. Katrina also hesitated awkwardly. Well, I mean. All three girls happily said, you can talk to us comfortably too, okay, Julieta immediately agreed. The sky outside is very beautiful today. Katrina clapped her hands and stood up. Well then, now that Julieta is here, let us go to another location, shall we? Julieta was a little surprised. Another location, aren't we going to continue our conversation here? Petali also stood up and explained. The weather is too beautiful to stay inside like this. We were just talking about going out to the garden when Julieta arrived. Katrina looked at Yeezer. Speaking of which, I heard my husband say he has something he wants to discuss with you privately, Duke Perheim. Eric quickly chimed in. That is right, Your Highness. Yeezer was slightly stunned by the offer he made. If it is not too much to ask, would you accept a duel with me? Then he placed his hand over his chest and bowed slightly. It would be my honor. Julieta stood still, silently thinking. Indeed, the Waden family has always been famous for their military prowess. Katrina suggested, in that case, why do not my husband and the Duke go to the training grounds, and we will go for a walk in the flower garden. Julieta hesitated for a moment. Finally, she said, I want to see you two spar. Would that be all right? Sarzina expressed admiration for her couple. Julieta, you want to see your husband show off, how adorable. Everyone praised them. Oh my, they are such a newlywed couple, Julieta forced a smile, thinking to herself, I am just curious about the duel. She blushed. Anyway, there is nothing wrong with wanting to see Yeezer fight, is there? The three girls were teasing her. Julieta, your face is all red, Julieta pleaded, please do not tease me anymore, Sina, Katrina, Betty. Katrina spoke up and made a suggestion. In that case, why do not we take this opportunity to go to the training grounds together? So they went there together. Eric held a gleaming sword in his hand. Duke Perheim, I would be very grateful if you would take this match seriously. Yeezer also held a majestic sword. That is what I was about to ask for, Earl Waden. The two swords clashed for the first time, making a deafening sound. Both men were completely serious about this match. They faced each other. Yeezer seemed to have the upper hand over Eric. Eric retreated because Yeezer's attack was too strong. Julieta clasped her hands in front of her chest, admiring him. Yeezer, you look so amazing. She was a little surprised to learn about his abilities. I have seen him practice with the knights before, but this is the first time I have seen him fight someone like this. Sarzina turned to whisper to her, it is so interesting to watch a sword fight like this. Julieta, who do you think will win? Katrina stood on the other side and whispered, Sina, why are you asking such a thing? Of course the Duke will beat Eric. Sarzina laughed. Katrina, are not you being a little harsh on your husband? Katrina retorted, that is not harsh, it is the truth. Julieta just listened silently and smiled. She did not dare to say it out loud, but only thought to herself, sorry, Earl Waden, but I really hope Yeezer wins. Yeezer's sword was pointed at Eric. Eric sat down on the ground, sighing in relief. I give up. He looked up and smiled, accepting this result. I lost. Now I understand why you inherited the duchy at such a young age. Yeezer was stunned to hear him say this. Then he smiled and complimented him. Thank you, you also possess excellent swordsmanship, Earl. Eric looked over at Julieta. If you call me handsome, the Duchess will be jealous. Julieta wondered to herself in surprise, what does that mean? Yeezer looked at her in surprise, wondering, my wife would be jealous. Eric added, by the way, the Duchess seems to be really enjoying this swordsmanship. As expected of the daughter of the Countess Orbitian. She was a little surprised to hear him mention her mother. My mother. Eric nodded. Yes, genes are truly amazing. The Countess used to be a promising knight, right? Julieta was shocked that he said this. Her hand tightened into a fist. My mother used to be like that. Eric scratched his head, embarrassed. You did not know, no one told you. Yeezer worriedly approached her. Madam, are you all right? Seeing her somber expression, he felt uneasy. You do not look so good. She closed her eyes, and a tear rolled down her cheek. I am sorry. Hearing about my mother so suddenly has made my head spin. Can I go rest for a while? Yeezer also felt sad at her mood at this moment. Then let us go together, madam. The two of them walked out of the training grounds. Yeezer carefully helped Julieta walk slowly. Eric watched them leave, and also teared up. Did I say something I should not have? He felt so guilty. Katrina was also equally worried. Is Julieta going to be all right? Sarzina reassured them. She will be fine. Sarzina smiled gently, watching them disappear into the distance. She explained, because Duke Perheim is with her. Yeezer had helped Julieta to the flower garden. Madam, are you all right? Julieta was still listless. I am sorry for making you worry. My mind has been in turmoil since I heard about my mother. Her eyes were tearful, about to cry. To be precise. He felt deeply sorry for Julieta, who knew almost nothing about her biological mother. If only Julieta's mother were healthy. If Julieta could have grown up in the love and protection of her mother. Julieta could not hold back her tears anymore and choked up. If my mother was still alive, would my life be different than it is now? Would Julieta be happier? Yeezer gently replied, it is very possible. He placed his hand on hers. However, he comforted her sincerely. If that happened, perhaps we would not have become husband and wife, and I might not have had the opportunity to make you happy. She was surprised that he would say this. I want you to be happy, but I selfishly hope you won't regret spending this time with me. Then Julieta laughed. Yes, what is the point of such hypotheticals? She looked out at the beautiful green flower garden. Right now, the kindest man in the world, Yeezer, is by my side. Suddenly someone called her name, Julieta. She turned to see Sarzina approaching. Sina. She smiled and waved at her. Are you feeling better? Julieta smiled slightly and nodded. Yes, I am sorry for making you worry. Sarzina replied, don't apologize. Earl Waden also apologized and said that he. Julieta waved her hand. Oh my, there is no need for that. Sarzina replied, anyway, I am glad you are feeling a little better, Julieta. She added, everyone has gone back to drinking tea. Julieta also stood up. Ah, then let us go too. But Sarzina suddenly stopped her. No, Julieta, can you wait a moment? She was a little stunned. Okay. Sarzina smiled, her eyes narrowed. There is something I want to talk to you about, just the two of us. The two of them went to find a private place to talk. Sarzina said, I am sorry for calling you out so suddenly. The two walked along a path where only they were. Sarzina stopped in an open space. Actually, I have something I want to give you. Julieta was surprised. Give me. Sarzina took out 2 purple envelopes and handed them to her. Here, tickets to the Cortina art exhibition. She whispered, just between us, there will be a very special painting at this exhibition. Julieta was bewildered. A painting, special. Sarzina explained, yes, you could call it the greatest masterpiece of the artist Cortina. Julieta was confused. But, why are you giving me this? She replied, I heard. Julieta stood still, listening to her confession, that the Marquis Yeckert is in trouble, and it is because of you, Julieta. She clenched her hands together, stammering, how did you know? Sarzina scratched her face, smiling awkwardly. Actually, I also know Pelin, so I heard a little bit from her. Julieta suddenly exclaimed in surprise because it was Pelin who revealed this. What? Finally, she lowered her head, embarrassed. Yes, I was the one who asked Pelin for help. Sarzina explained further, actually, after you returned from Lady Yeckert's tea party, I heard some unpleasant rumors related to you. Her eyes suddenly lowered sadly. I am sure it is all my fault. Her words shocked Julieta even more. So, I was going to intervene so that the Marquis would not do that anymore, but it seems that someone was faster than me. Then Julieta suddenly laughed. And that person did not do it for themselves, but for a small maid. Sarzina looked at her with eyes full of admiration for her noble heart. She placed the 2 tickets in Julieta's hand. It is not much, but please accept this as a thank you. She also did not forget to advise, remember to go see it with Duke Perheim. Julieta happily accepted them. Thank you, Sina. The whole garden seemed to be painted with a little more joy, making it even more sparkling. Night was falling. Yeezer asked with concern, did you have a lot of fun today, madam? Julieta nodded. Yes, everyone was very kind. He politely opened the door for her to enter the house. Even so, it is tiring to play for so long, please come in and rest, madam. She looked at him gently. Yes, I will rest a bit, thank you. Suddenly, she was surprised and her eyes widened. She was surprised to see the entire hall filled with flowers and lavish decorations. Huh. She looked around in surprise. Wait, what is this? Yeezer was equally surprised. There was also a bed covered in roses shaped like a heart in the middle. What is all of this? Julieta asked Yeezer. Yeezer, do you know anything about this? Yeezer also looked around blankly. I am not sure. He suddenly spoke up. Ah, now that you mention it, I remembered something. Julieta lay down on the large bed. They looked at each other shyly, thinking to themselves, today is our wedding night. The servants did mention it this morning, so why did not I realize it? Julieta sat up when she heard a sound. Yeezer, are you here? Yeezer, who had changed into a nightgown, approached. Madam, are you resting? She nodded. Yes. She was fascinated by his beauty and was dazed, praising him silently, he is really handsome. He sat down on the side of the bed. Extremely embarrassed, she blushed and stammered, should we go to sleep? Then she looked at the bed. Ah, but I should probably clear all these rose petals before going to bed. It is uncomfortable to sleep with these, and it would be rude to ignore the effort the servants put in. She was ashamed. I know I am lying, but I can't help it. Suddenly, Yeezer called her name. Julieta. He smiled gently and reassured her. You do not need to be so nervous. She was a little nervous, but also felt a little relieved by his words. She denied it. I am not that nervous. Yeezer nodded. That is good then. Yeezer added, actually, I wanted to ask you something. Julieta became serious. What is it? He opened his mouth. My younger brother is coming to visit soon, is not he? You want us to look like we are getting along in front of him? She nodded. Yes, I did say that. He asked frankly, so, to look like a close couple, how intimate should we be? Julieta thought. Probably, like what we did at the wedding. Suddenly, she froze. Ah. She remembered that they kissed that day. If it is what we did at the wedding. She blushed and quickly said, Yeezer, I misspoke. Suddenly, her eyes widened at his unexpected action. Yeezer had kissed her lips suddenly. When he left her lips, her face was as red as a tomato. He even asked, do you mean like this? Yeezer reached out and wiped the corner of her lips. Julieta's flushed face became even more flustered. Outside it was late at night. You told me not to be nervous. Julietta woke up and screamed at herself, why did I oversleep all day today? It is the day Wislet is visiting too. Suddenly she froze. Wait, it is clearly the fault of the person who requested to arrive so early in the morning. She walked out of the room and asked the servants, is anyone there? Tell me where the Duke has gone. It has been quite a while since I lost track of him. A maid replied, the Duke left to escort Sir Wislet Orbetian, madam. Julietta was stunned. Huh? She screamed and asked herself, what? Calm down, why did he go alone? Julietta stormed in, opening the door and calling out loudly, brother. Wislet turned to look. Julietta, you are here. Yeezer and Wislet were sitting on the sofa chatting. Julietta rushed to Yeezer, flustered. Yeezer, how could you let me sleep? Why did you handle this yourself? He answered calmly, you were sleeping very soundly, my love. She stammered. Even so, Wislet spoke up for Yeezer. Julietta, waking up on time is your responsibility. She turned to blame her brother. That is because your arrival time was too unreasonable, Wislet laughed it off. I just wanted to reunite with my sister quickly. Yeezer stood up and left. Julietta, I will go get some refreshments. Please talk to your brother while I am gone. She nodded. You are so thoughtful, Yeezer. Julietta sat down to chat with Wislet. Didn't your wife come here? Did you come alone? He casually replied, believe it or not, I have basic etiquette. It has been a long time since we have met, of course I should come here alone. She teased, sending your sister off to get married must have made you very worried, huh, Wislet sighed. Actually, that is right. You are the only sibling I have. He carefully instructed, therefore, you must promise to contact me if any problems arise, okay, she agreed. I will, thank you. She asked with concern, Wislet, is Nanny still doing well? Wislet replied, she is still fine, why would not she be, however, she misses you often. Julietta rested her chin sadly. I miss Nanny so much, I wish I could visit her. Wislet made a suggestion. If you want to go that much, you just need to bring her to the wedding. I do not think Duke Perheim will refuse. She hesitated. But I was worried she would have to live in a strange environment just because of me. Actually, she was worried in her heart, if I bring someone along and she finds out about this fake marriage. She might be very sad. Wislet folded his arms and asked, you are in a political marriage, but you are still worried about other people. He started to lecture his sister. Take care of yourself, you keep ignoring your own needs to take care of everyone. Seeing you act like this, how can I not worry? Julietta was annoyed. Are you lecturing me? I understand, so stop. He snapped. I told you not to see my advice as a nuisance. Finally, Wislet had to put that aside. Forget about it, if trouble happens, I will intervene right away. Julietta smiled to herself, he looks just like a real older brother. Suddenly, she said seriously, listen, Wislet. Hearing her, Wislet became pensive. Recently, I have been told some things about Mom. He clasped his hands tightly together. Where did that information come from? She recounted, it was mentioned casually at a social gathering for married couples not long ago. They said I look a lot like Mom. Her eyes were tearful and sad. Mom was actually a talented swordswoman, was not she? I believed that my skills were just natural instinct, but it turns out I inherited them from Mom. Besides the comfort that Yeezer provides me, I still pity myself, who lacked understanding of my parents. She questioned, Wislet, why did you hide it from me? While other relatives of ours may not know about my passion for the blade, you must have known. Wislet closed his eyes sadly and replied, because I knew it would not be beneficial for you. If I had revealed that, you might have tried to follow in Mom's footsteps and become a knight. She retorted, if that is the case, you could have prevented me from touching weapons. Wislet looked up dejectedly. Could I even do that? He recalled the days when she was little. Your fondness was evident whenever you picked up a blade. He explained, I was also quite selfish. I did not want you to give up sword training, because it was like a gift passed down from Mom. Julietta felt a pang of sadness when she heard him explain, despite the fact that Dad would hate that idea. She said, but I wished I had known everything. He looked at her remorsefully. I understand, please forgive me, Julietta. It is my fault. My actions were also for your benefit, but now I realize they only served myself. Feel free to vent your anger, or shout at me. He looked at his younger sister in front of him with regret, but please do not look so sad. Julietta pursed her lips. What are you talking about? Then she smiled brightly again. Something like this is not worth my tears. Wislet also smiled slightly when he saw her happy. He asked, by the way, have you continued training with swords recently? Just then, Yeezer also came in. Obviously, Yeezer has provided a lot of support, so my skills have improved significantly. He smiled when he heard her mention him in front of her brother. It seems that the Duke really cares about you a lot. Didn't you mention that in the letter? He stood outside, listening to them chat for a while. Make sure to show a polite attitude towards Yeezer when he comes back. Wislet stayed with Yeezer and Julieta for a while longer. When he left, the two of them saw him off. Julieta instructed, be careful on your way back, Wislet. Wislet nodded. Okay, do not worry and go inside. He also did not forget to tell his sister, stay safe, live happily. She smiled brightly. I will, do not worry. Wislet's carriage rolled away. Yeezer and Julieta watched silently. She said to herself, thank you, Wislet. Yeezer took her hand. Are you ready to go inside? She also squeezed his hand. Yes, let us go home together. She also whispered a message to Wislet, I should be the one apologizing for deceiving you into believing that this temporary 2-year agreement is a real marriage. A clear voice came. Yeezer, I am really grateful for what you did today. Julieta walked with him on the sunny corridor. You deliberately arranged everything so that I could have some private time to talk to my brother, did not you? Her cheeks flushed. Thanks to your thoughtfulness, we had a very comfortable chat. Yeezer replied gently, don't be so polite. I am also very happy to have a chat with my brother-in-law. He teasingly teased Julieta a bit. Actually, I have heard quite a few things about you, madam. This made her inevitably shy. Whatever it is, please forget everything. Yeezer's voice was extremely gentle. Hearing about you makes me feel very happy. After all, those are all wonderful memories, are not they? Like pouring honey into Julieta's heart, any story related to madam makes me feel happy. However, she still pretended to be dubious. Really? He did not continue to tease Julieta, changing the subject. There is something I need to talk to you about. She looked up at Yeezer curiously. What is it? He hesitated a little, seemingly unsure how to open his mouth. In the end, he still asked Julieta, Madam, are you really okay with facing your family? The two of them suddenly fell silent. Then her eyes narrowed and the corners of her mouth curved into a slight smile. Yeezer. Before his worry, Julieta's head lowered slightly. You do not need to be so perceptive. Her small hands unconsciously showed her confusion. Even with things like this, you are so perfect, what am I supposed to do? Once again, Yeezer fell silent. Meanwhile, in another setting, half of the tea had been drunk, and the two continued to chat. Please forgive me if this sounds like I am eavesdropping, but I accidentally overheard a small part of your conversation with your brother-in-law. The carriage moved along the road. Yeezer's voice was dubious. Is it really true that all this time, your family has not told you anything about your mother? Both stopped. Julieta slowly spoke. My family said they loved me, but they never really spent time with me. To others, they called my name with all their love and always smiled at me, but she seemed unable to fit in. I was always left in eternal solitude. Always the one who could only watch, because they were all very busy. I believed that understanding them was my duty. I tried to restrain my selfishness, convincing myself that being left alone was unavoidable. Julieta paused. But his emotions were hard to describe when he heard her heartfelt words. To be honest with you, I never really wanted to have to be understanding about that. In that dark and cold night, I simply wanted them to stay with me. The image of the most important woman in my life has always been vague throughout my growth, and I wished they could share stories about my mother. Her hand gently placed on her chest, but the most painful thing is, no matter what, they were always by my side. Because I was aware that my family always gave me love, I felt that I had absolutely no right to complain or resent anything. Julieta's appearance was extremely obedient. Because if I did, I would become childish and thoughtless in everyone's eyes. At this moment, Yeezer interrupted her. That is completely wrong. In this magnificent castle, you have the right to complain whenever you want, wife. Julieta's soft hair was brushed behind her ear by him. However, if that continues to weigh heavily on your heart. Every word of Yeezer's was sincere. Then please share everything with me. He did not want her to be hurt even a little. Whenever you have difficulties, I will always be by your side. Please, do not endure this pain alone. Julieta was really surprised when she heard these words. He is really too foolish. I myself am not okay, so why is he still trying to take care of me? Her hand placed on her skirt moved slightly. This is exactly the reason why my heart is moved. The shadows of the two stretched long under the golden sunlight. This is the reason why that boundary keeps blurring, and I feel the desire to rely on Yeezer. She could not help but wonder, having to deal with the Empress must also be very difficult for you, so, why do you keep worrying about me? He slowly replied, because I always keep remembering the moment you took my hand at our wedding. That is a beautiful memory for Yeezer. For someone like me, who always has to worry about suppressing emotions in solitude, you were the first to reach out and help me. So his concern for Julieta always can't be stopped, simply because it is you, so I can't help but worry about you. Her expression at this moment certainly did not think this was Yeezer's answer. But she herself was always paying attention to the person next to her. I realized that I worry about you more than I worry about myself. What I am afraid of is that while you are comforting me, you are neglecting your own needs. Suddenly, he raised his hand, pretending to agree. Actually, that is pretty great, is not it? Julieta was a little confused. What did you just say? Yeezer smiled brightly at her. If I understand what you said correctly, then it means that both of us are worried about each other. He looked directly at the girl in front of him. That means, at least, we will always be by each other's side. The warm voice rang in her ear. Isn't that enough, making Julieta's face even redder? Okay. Finally, a smile bloomed again on her beautiful face. You are right, Yeezer. Sunlight shone through the window frame. Madam, it is all done. Julieta appeared with a new look. Oh my goodness, Madam still looks so gorgeous today. She wanted to ask for their opinion a little. Do you think I look good standing next to the Duke? Oh my, the servants were more excited than ever. Without a doubt. Looking from afar, you two are a match made in heaven. Julieta wanted to confirm again. Do you really think so? As it happened, Yeezer also came out dressed neatly. He came over and asked her, Madam, are you ready yet? Hearing Yeezer's voice, Julieta turned her head. Yeezer, you are here. He placed his hand on his chest like a gentleman. You are as beautiful as always today. In Yeezer's eyes, her beauty was truly radiant. He took his wife's hand. Both set off together. Then let us go. They were silent throughout the journey, but their care for each other was undeniable. The bright red tiles were dyed with the golden light of the sunset. Just as she got out of the car, Julieta's heart beat faster. I feel a little worried. In her heart, she understood that, once we go inside, my whole family will be there, and more than that, I have to face Bertisha. A familiar sound rang in her ears. Madam. For some reason, Yeezer wanted to make a request. When we go inside, please only look at me. Don't look at any other man. His smile was brighter than the midday sun. Admitting this is a bit embarrassing, but I think I might be jealous. This man always knew how to make Julieta's heart race. Her rosy cheeks revealed her shyness. That should be what I am saying. Julieta seriously told him, Yeezer, you are not allowed to look at other women. Demanding even a little more, even if it is the Empress approaching you. He put his arm around her waist and they both walked in. Yes, I will remember that carefully. Inside, the party had been carefully prepared. As soon as they entered, someone started talking. Oh my, it is Duke Perheim. So the lady next to him must be. Yeezer looked calm and composed, not paying attention to what was around him at all. Julieta heard everything and kept a forced smile on her lips. Yes, I am the one that everyone is talking about, the Duchess. She unconsciously looked at her husband beside her. Yeezer, I did not know you were so popular. Many people watched their steps. I can feel everyone's eyes are focused on him. But his performance was also beyond Julieta's expectations. It is unbelievable that Yeezer just smiled apologetically at those looks as if they meant nothing at all. In her heart, she could not help but make a comparison. I never imagined that the difference in experience between the two of us would be so obvious in a place like this. The strange inner turmoil led to actions that made Yeezer look at her with confusion. I am starting to feel regret for living such a reclusive life, just a little. A loud shout made both of them pay attention. The Emperor and Empress are entering. Her state became more tense. Finally. Her footsteps stopped and she turned around. The two stood straight facing the main door. The main characters have appeared. Julieta worriedly called softly. Will Yeezer be okay, Yeezer? He gently replied. Yes, madam, she really cared about Yeezer. Are you okay? He did not answer directly. After thinking for a moment, he spoke. To be honest, I am not too sure myself. Yeezer looked ahead. But seeing them like this, right in front of me, two figures were gradually approaching. I finally understood, it turns out I am handling this better than I thought. Then he looked at Julieta. It is all because I have you by my side, madam. His hand was gripped a little tighter. Thank you, Julieta. She was engrossed in looking at that smile. Looking at them now, they really look very well matched. Her lips pursed tightly without speaking. In the end, she still wanted to praise this man. Even so, to me, you are much more dignified than the emperor, Yeezer. His heart became warm. Are you trying to comfort me? The two were busy showing their feelings. No, I am serious. Camilleo's eyes were always on them. Yeezer seems happy. The beauty beside him did not speak, only listened to him. Seeing it with my own eyes, they really are a very beautiful couple. Until her name was mentioned, you think so too, do not you, Bertisha? The corners of her lips curved into a smile. Yes, I think so too. Her hands were already clenched tightly. They look very well matched. A scene appeared in another room. Only Julieta stood there alone. She was confused. The royal palace is much bigger than I imagined. Doubting herself. Where am I? I only left for a moment to go to the bathroom, but now I am completely lost. Focusing on finding a way out without noticing someone behind her. Yeezer must be waiting for me. I will go back quickly. A sound came, making her stop. Duchess. Julieta turned towards the back. This voice is. A familiar face appeared in sight. Your Highness the Empress. She quickly bowed and performed the salute. Glory belongs to the Empire, greetings to Her Majesty the Empress. Bertisha acted friendly. There is no need to be so polite. We have met once before, have not we? She even asked about Julieta's condition. Do you feel any better now? She felt that something was not right. I am better, what is this? The development was not like what Julieta had thought. The previous meeting did not end well, so why is she smiling so kindly now? She did not want to be with this person for too long. I will take my leave first, but she was stopped. Wait a moment. Julieta always felt that she should be wary of this person. Is there something wrong? Although she did not have any unusual points, it is nothing serious, it is just that I want to talk to you a little, Duchess. Bertisha gave a friendly smile. If you do not mind, could you spend some time with me? Giving the feeling that she was very sincere, but also like a threat. I do not want to have to resort to issuing a royal command for things like this, you understand my feelings, do not you? Julieta did not know how to respond for a moment. The two hands visible made her feel restless, I do not know what it is, but... Even so, Julieta really had no other choice. Maybe I can't avoid it anymore, I understand, Your Majesty the Empress. This just happened to be Bertisha's intention. Because Julieta had agreed, the two left together. Then let us go talk somewhere else. They came to another room again. Here, tea and snacks were prepared. Both remained silent, she always carefully watched the person opposite her. Then she could not help but interrupt the silence. Your Majesty the Empress, I will be honest with you. She frankly spoke her thoughts. Actually, I think your behavior is a bit much. In the place hidden by the tea table, Julieta's hands had already tightly gripped her skirt. If you visit other young ladies, I am sure they will all warmly welcome you. Then she spoke the question in her heart. Why do you keep approaching me? She sighed in response. I should be the one asking that question. Putting the teacup down on the table. Why do you think I am being too much? Bertisha also wanted to answer her question. Is it because you do not like the fact that Yeezer and I are close to each other? Julieta really did not know how to answer her. That appearance was not what the Empress she knew should have. Why is she lying like that? I had already realized from before that she did not like me at all. Regaining her composure, Julieta spoke. I do not care what your relationship with Yeezer was like in the past. After all, you two are not lovers, are you? Although it was hard to believe, these were words from her own mouth. It is just that I find myself too ordinary when compared to your highness. The snacks were still placed neatly, none of them touched. I understand. Bertisha smiled brightly at Julieta. In that case, from now on, I will send letters to the Duchess. In her eyes, there was not much friendliness. Because it is not a letter to Yeezer, so it should be okay, right? This person was really hard to deal with for her. Her words are really sharp. She must still be mindful of what I said earlier. Julieta prepared to answer further, Your Majesty, that matter. Just then, a tall figure appeared beside her. So you are here, madam. Julieta exclaimed in surprise. Yeezer, his expression was very worried. Oh my, I have been looking for you for so long. Only focusing his attention on his wife, I kept worrying if you had gotten lost. Another voice called his name. Yeezer. She tried to attract his attention. I have missed you very much. It has been a long time since we have met again. Yeezer performed the salute to Bertisha. Eternal glory to the Empire. His face had no superfluous emotions. Greetings to Her Majesty the Empress. At this moment, she seemed a little disappointed. Even with only Madam Duchess here, you are still treating me so coldly. Bertisha always wanted to ask Yeezer, why have not you replied to my letters all this time? Julieta looked forward to his answer. I have been very busy with many things to prepare for the wedding. Yeezer also bluntly drew the line. And no matter how close friends we were in the past, the private relationship between the two of us should have ended in childhood. The reason was also very justified. Because I do not want my fiancé to have any unnecessary misunderstandings. Her mood at this moment was obviously very uncomfortable. But she still tried to act happy. Oh my, Yeezer, there is no way Camellia would misunderstand the relationship between us. Finding another reason to get closer to this relationship. Camellia is also sad to see you deliberately keeping your distance these days. Have I done something wrong, or? Bertisha's hand wanted to grab Yeezer. Before she could act, he tightly gripped her wrist. She was startled and stammered, What is wrong, Yeezer? He only felt that Bertisha in front of him was ridiculous. Not giving any face to this empress, he said bluntly, Sorry, but I would be very grateful if you did not touch me again. The three of them were only the past. But they had to understand, our current situation is no longer the same as before. I do not want any unfounded rumors to be spread. Julieta softly called the man's name. Yeezer. Bertisha stared blankly as he released her hand. You have changed. Her hand was gripped until it hurt. Her expression immediately changed. Have you forgotten everything about our friendship? Yeezer supported his head, really tired. It is not exactly that. Julieta interrupted the conversation. Excuse me, Your Majesty. She was clearly unhappy. I do not feel very well. Also not wanting to endure a little longer. I tried to wait for the conversation to end, but it seems I do not think I can be patient any longer. Her eyes narrowed, but she had no goodwill. I am really sorry, but can I ask for permission to leave with my husband first? Bertisha seemed unhappy when she heard the emphasis on the words my husband. But she could not get angry. I really did not realize you were tired, yet I kept you here all this time. Still having to continue playing the role of a good person. Sorry, the scene just now must have embarrassed the Duchess. Julieta of course would not cause trouble. It is okay. Bertisha pretended to be very concerned about Julieta. But, I see that the Duchess's throat seems to often hurt, right? Before they left, she did not forget to remind them. You should pay more attention to your health. Night fell, embracing the palace. Julieta forced a smile, but was screaming in her heart. She is so annoying, but I have to endure it. But she cared about him more. Right now, the most important thing is to keep Yeezer away from Bertisha. Still politely replying to her. Thank you for the advice. Julieta smiled gently at him. Their fingers intertwined. I will be more careful in the future, Your Majesty.